Hello, we are live. Welcome to Christian Hangout number 34. With us returning, we have LUMEN et al. And back for the first time in a while is GREGORY CARLIN. We missed you, man.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah. And joining us for the first time, we have, you know her from Twitter and from her blog. We have LORETTA the PROLE with us.
Hi.
Say hi, Laura. Hello.
Hi.
So since this is your first time here, LORETTA, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us what your background as a Christian is?
Oh, sure. Sorry, just one second.
Okay. We have one viewer. Awesome.
I'm sorry. We have these big dogs, and they got out like 2 seconds before 7. So my husband's trying to teach them with the children. Yeah. My background. Well, what people paid attention to most was I wrote a blog post on my hometown of Utica, New York, which is upstate New York is rapidly Islamizing. So I wrote a post about Utica, New York in particular, because I'm most familiar with it, because I'm from the area, and just recounting what it was like to live in an area that's rapidly Islamizing. I'm a lawyer admitted in New York State. We moved to North Carolina like a year ago, and I have to figure out whether I want to keep up my New York State license. And we have 4 children, and I'm raised Roman Catholic, but I've been going to Orthodox services for the past, what is it now, 2017? So the past like 7 years. So right now we're going to a Russian Orthodox church, and we've been going to Orthodox since 2010.
Cool.
Woohoo, Team Orthodox.
We're not going to start the Catholic versus Orthodox thing, are we? LUMEN? No, just kidding.
Maybe. We'll see. I'm kind of low energy tonight, so it'll probably be subdued.
It's okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking around. I'm going to go full bore. It's on. I'm just kidding again. I'm just kidding again.
Well, I just want to say, Lord, I followed you on Twitter long before that blog post got published, so I guess I'm old school or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twitter is good because I'm like distracted all the time because I'm staying at home with the kids. So it's really easy to like make your voice heard kind of quickly on Twitter and just kind of react to a news article and just be like, you know what, I disapprove of this. So if you're busy, it's kind of a good shorthand to dissent or protest or be active or whatever. And it doesn't take much time or really thought. So it's a good forum for me. Hopefully I'm not too thoughtless, but
You're not what?
too thoughtless. So I try not to, but sometimes knee-jerk reactions are good because I feel like there's a lot of self-censorship going on, and I'm just kind of taking advantage of this time in my life when I'm not working to say what I want to say for the moment, because I think that there's a lot of things that a lot of people are hampered in what they can say. Like even if you look at that guy with that GIF, that CNN, wrestling GIF, which is,
yeah.
My husband, like we grew up with, the wrestling. It's funny and silly. And I mean, the fact that I didn't understand why he didn't just come forward and be like, yeah, I made up a silly GIF in my spare time.
I think he was just like 15. I think he's just like a teenager. So I think he might have been really.
I couldn't figure out if he was really a teenager. They were just saying he was a teenager.
I don't know. Yeah, that would explain it though. Maybe if he was just a kid, he might have been scared. His parents might have been like, you just do what they say, and who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard of a teenager too. I didn't look too deeply into it, but I mean, even so, it's pretty amazing that they would do that kind of thuggery.
But LORETTA, I think you're right in that if you've gotten to a certain point with your worldview, and you've been honest enough, and you've used your critical thinking long enough that you feel pretty confident, about the integrity of your convictions, then I don't think it's really lazy or just kind of being off the cuff to respond quickly to something like that, rather than, I don't know, if you're like me with the propensity to kind of go on and on at length, it might be better to just kind of, you know, get your thoughts out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, especially if you're not trying to be just like the typical, you know, liberal with their snark. You know, when you actually know what you're saying and you know, you can kind of back it up. I don't think it's, I think it might be better. And I think it might also be better for bringing people over to, you know, listen to our views, you know, to give them a quick, you know, easy to digest, but substantial, you know, thought on whatever it is you're commenting on.
It's also better from a psychological standpoint, because people are wired to detect honest emotions. That's why we blush when we feel embarrassed, because you can say I feel embarrassed 1,000 times, but you can only prove it by blushing. So if you have a knee-jerk reaction, people will read your emotions much better than if you make a deliberate speech and beautiful as it may be, or a carefully deliberated plan. Sometimes you can't beat the raw impact of a knee-jerk reaction.
That's a good point.
And it's also just that's the, for better or worse, I think overall it's for worse, but you know, for our purposes right now it might be for better. That's just the pace of public discourse these days, such as it is. I mean, it's
right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, we are playing different games, because the left is very good at mitigating damage. So the left has extremists, they have intellectuals, they have people in media, they have every front covered, and they seem to work side by side with each other. And when someone steps out of line, they just don't acknowledge it. They don't exist. You don't see Antifa attacks as publicized in the media. But in the right wing, you have to be a jack of all trades. You have to know how to fight in the front lines, yet also learn political philosophy. The left doesn't have to. The college person just has to memorize some slogans and then repeat them, because they have the pressure of overwhelming numbers.
Well, the left has, you know, they very quickly and effectively internalized and transformed into their modus operandi Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. And when you see the left in disarray these days, it's because someone on the right is giving it back to them, like Mike Enoch, for example. You know, they you know, when he shut down that Persian girl at University of Virginia at that Richard Spencer talk, when you throw that right back at them, you know, that's when, and that's why they've been successful, in my opinion, is because they've adhered to these simple.
Obnoxious, because they're obnoxious.
Yeah. Yep. And it's when also I think that's where the meme response came from CNN. You know, it's kind of like, wait a minute, they're doing what we do, and I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I mean, it's kind of at the point now where people like us who are Christians, you know, we try to keep the moral high ground, and I don't engage in too much, you know, lowbrow meme warfare. But at the same time, I understand that these guys that are in the trenches, they're actually getting some results and winning some battles where, you know, people who have insisted on keeping the moral high ground for years, you know, never could. So it's kind of, I think that's kind of where you see the left flinching these days, is when it's thrown back at them.
Well, the right, the American right, and by extension and by copying them, the European right, always argues from a position of weakness. They're always defending themselves. Oh, we don't hate minorities. You really hate them. We want them to be independent. They're always groveling and apologizing and trying to prove. If someone comes to me every day and tells me, I'm not a thief, I'm not a thief, I'm not a thief, I'm not a thief, something will stick. I'll begin to suspect them next time I lose my wallet. Stop it. Just don't apologize. Say once and for all, this is the first and last time I'm addressing this subject. I do not hate people that are a different race. Now grow up and let's talk budgets. Simple.
I don't even think you should address that because, you know, I mean, my mom worked in advertising and you don't do negative messaging. Like, you know, you don't say, I'm not a thief. You say, I'm honest. You know, this is why I'm honest. I have this reputation for honesty. I'm an honest
That's a good point.
Or you even switch it up and say, you know, do another lesser fault. You know, like don't address I'm not a thief, but just be like, you know, I'm a, I don't know, I'm a forger. You know, yes, I'm a forger. I'll acknowledge that. But, you know, so, I mean, I don't understand the negative, you know, when you take, if their message is you're racist, there's no way to combat that. It's like an allegation of sexual harassment. I mean, it's like an allegation of racism. It's impossible to refute. Absolutely impossible. I mean, you could be married to somebody of another race and have biracial children. They don't care. You can still be racist.
Yeah.
They just let people call
John
them
Derbyshire.
Well, that's the problem with thought crime. You can't prove or disprove it. It happens in someone's head.
But you know what? I'm American, and we don't have thought crime. So, you know, I just stick with that. They can make up all their thought crimes all they want, but, you know, I know what that means. And I mean, that 15-year-old with the GIF, see, if he'd been a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old or whatever, he might have been like, okay, whatever, I made a world, you know, wrestling federation GIF, whatever. But I mean, I could see why he would be scared if he were 15, because when I grew up, you were able to, you know, say what you thought to a large extent. And we had comedians like Eddie Murphy and George Carlin and stuff, you know, that would, you know, could say what they thought, and they're rude and bombastic and funny, and, you know, that was life. And now it's like you only find that on Twitter. Like, I mean, a lot of why the alt-right, people like the alt-right, is because they're funny. They say funny things, you know?
Well, I've made that point that, you know, the reason that we win with memes and with humor is because an integral part of humor is truth, and the left can't they can't allow for truth, because, I mean, just race realism, for example. You know, this is a truth. There's truth to this. It's demonstrable. It's, you know, there's data, and they can't allow that, because that's not part of their ideology, and it's definitely not. It's verboten, you know, among their base, who, you know, who are largely, you know, it's, you know, people who are non-white. But the thing, you know, the thing that the right has too often fallen prey to is allowing the enemy to set the terms of the conversation, to set the terms of the discourse and the argument. And, you know, a dear friend of mine, I told Ian about this. This is my last normie friend. You know, he's 100% normie. Anti-racist.
Wait, what did you do with the rest of your normie friends? Don't say anything.
Let's just say that, you know, don't tell the police to go into the newly paved garage floor. No, but, you know, this is like my last, you know, kind of normie friend, and he doesn't, you know, he understands how I, you know, my worldview, but he still views me. He judges me as a person, and I appreciate that. But anyway, you know, we got together a couple weeks ago, and you know, I give him little bits here and there to make him think, because he's smart, you know, and eventually he's going to have to start thinking of this stuff. But you know, he kind of brought up, you know, Clinton versus Trump, and you know, comparing the two, and you know, Trump's an asshole. Oh, I'm sorry, I swore. I apologize, Ian, but that is actually what
well, not if you shoot a donkey, then it's an ass with a hole.
Yeah, but anyway, anyway, the point, and I do apologize. That is what he said. But I had to say to him, I had to say, look, you know, if I agree to, you know, kind of argue with you about this and defend Trump against Hillary, that kind of presupposes that I buy into this system, and I don't. You know, I don't like democracy. I'm not. You know, I'm not. And that's, you know, this is someone who argues in good faith. You know, I'm talking about our enemy. You know, when you let them set the terms, you know, when you do the, you know, Dems are the real racists, and, you know, look at this, you know, whatever based black guy in the Trump hat, you know, we have him on our side, and you're letting your enemies, you know, set the terms of warfare, and you're going to lose every time.
Well, this brings up a very interesting question, because we have to constantly struggle between principle and pragmatism.
Yeah.
Our principle is this. Basically, any man or woman of the right believes that man is not born a blank slate, and man is not inherently good. And this is not just a Christian perspective. If you believe in evolution, you would know that nature is cruel and selfish.
Yep.
Often. So man must be controlled in a way or the other to build society. Now, you can have good forms of control, like community and religion, or you can have boot on neck types of control, like the state.
Yeah. Yep.
But ultimately, that's why the American founders fought that they could get away with a libertarian society. Because if you leave religious people alone, they'll just build another chicken coop. But if you leave hedonists alone, hide the children.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Seriously, that's the point. So now we get back to the main issue. These ideas are too shocking for an uninitiated person. When I first moved to the right, I did it in slow increments. I started with Stefan Molyneux, Stephen Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, all of these neocons. And then I saw that, wait a minute, these guys talk truth when it comes to certain things. But then I found better writers like Mark Citadel, I found TRS, I found Countercurrents, I found more reliable and more truthful sources, and I've moved past even some of those. But how do you bring a person? You can't just have a no democracy platform. But that's the ultimate goal, no democracy. So that's the brain teaser right now. And especially that we're Christians and we're not allowed to purposely deceive innocent people.
Did Laura just drop out or something? Or what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like she did.
It seems so.
Hope she's not upset about being cut off there.
Well, the thing is, Gregory, what's kind of becoming clear to me, and I may or may not be wrong. Heaven knows I've been wrong before, but
you know.
I know. It's difficult to believe, but you know, it's a
Catholics wrong about something. Nah.
Yes, as we all know, Catholics are infallible. But it seems like you know, this is, you know, being borne out in, just for example, you know, like, you know, silly, you know, alt-right guys being, in all seriousness, considered by Antifa to be Nazis. So it seems like what's going to happen is, you know, it's going to get to a point where it doesn't matter, you know, how milquetoast you are on the right, how, you know, above the fray you are in the middle. Welcome back, Loretta. Or how, you know, how much, you know, super signally you are on the left. What's going to happen is you're going to be a Nazi because you're white, no matter what, and that's what it's going to come down to. So I guess you know, that will kind of at that point it will make what you're talking about, Gregory, kind of irrelevant. And, you know, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be a matter of survival. You know, where people have to say, all right, well, these people are going to call me a Nazi, fascist, whatever, no matter what. No matter what I do, it doesn't matter. So, you know, I guess I'm alt-right.
Yeah, but these people, if they don't internalize the concepts, so you have the racist liberal syndrome, where they don't get the point. They just see they just see a person with a fever and says his disease is a fever. No, his disease is another thing. The symptom is a fever. So multiracial, multicultural societies in such vast numbers that it causes conflict and mass rape, that is although it may seem the biggest problem in the world, turning your country into Bosnia, basically, is just a symptom. I think that a greater symptom is the breakdown of trust between men and women. That's far more disastrous.
Yeah.
It's ruined millions. I can safely assume that over the entire West has ruined millions of lives, caused numerous suicides, caused broken homes, caused children to be raised alone. We can't even agree on the words. We can't even have the same language anymore. We can't have pronouns. We can't. They said physics is racist. So
yeah, it's short-circuited who we are, you know, as a high trust people.
And this is the problem. I'm not a subscriber to. I'm a pragmatist, even though I'm also an idealist. So I'm not a subscriber to, oh, it's the Jews behind everything. So it's also Jews and it's also us. But we had intellectuals who discovered that human beings are semi-rational. So if you subject any human belief or system to rational analysis, that system breaks down. Because humanity, well, as a Christian, I say that humanity is also spiritual. So that's why certain things don't make sense. But they say it doesn't make sense, so it must be scrapped. However, the things they come up to replace them are also subject to the same nihilism and criticism, and also subject to the same breakdown. However, they don't allow it because they climbed up to the attic and they kicked the ladder down. So they criticized our Christianity, and now that they're in power, oh, sorry, can't criticize us, racist, xenophobe, homophobe, transphobe. So they did this bait and switch, and they put us in the position that they were in because they begged and crawled for the ability to make themselves heard in past decades when society was.
What position that who was in?
The left, the left in general.
What do you mean the position they were in? That they were not, that we were anti-left, like in the 50s and
No. The 50s were already the 50s. The movement already basically started. I mean, pre-French Revolution. So every left opinions in a pre-French Revolution world were satanic. They were Luciferian.
Mm-hmm. They still are, basically. I mean.
Well, they are because they emphasize. They worship humanism. It's humanity worshiping itself, and as a Christian, it's in all Christian denominations, pride is the first and most gravest of sins.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
if you worship the human, what are humans? Let's analyze the human as an animal. Humans are nothing more than a series of impulses and desires. So the ultimate conclusion of humanism is that we have to satisfy human impulses and desires by any means necessary. Humans being uncomfortable is the greatest sin. So while a religious person can understand that discipline takes punishment or takes exile or takes exclusion, they see their value is, oh my God, someone's sad, make it stop now. That's how a leftist thinks. They don't understand that discipline is a part of morality.
Well, even if they don't understand it, I think they do intuit that, which is why they, even when they run out of things to rebel against, they will always be in rebellion because, you know, like St. Augustine said, you know, God made man for himself, and man, I'm paraphrasing here, you know, man will never be at peace. Man will never be happy except in God. And everyone intuits this, you know. It's what, even though, I mean, I was an atheist for like a decade, but I still had that. You know, I still had that instinct. And I think that might be part of, you know, what drives the dyed-in-the-wool hardcore leftist insane. I mean, look, I mean, even in, again with Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, you know, he in the beginning he dedicated it to the original radical, Lucifer. You know, so I mean, it's a which is kind of what you alluded to, Gregory. You know, the you know, just the open rebellion against God and you know, God's hierarchy.
Yeah, that's why I have disagreements with people that say that Christianity reflects natural law perfectly, because natural law, it does share similar parallels with Christianity, for example.
It's the precursor. It's the precursor to.
Yeah. So we can see the animal world reflect some of our values. So, for example, in many mammals, the dominance and leadership of the male, the R-type reproductive strategy, or is it K? Yeah, K. It's the K-type reproductive strategy where you have the discipline, late sexual development, monogamy, and certain things. However, Christianity sometimes tells you to jump into the flames, jump into the lion's pit. That's not natural.
Yeah.
I've had a very recent experience with a person who angered me greatly, and I could destroy that person because she did something wrong, and if it ever is found out, she'll have her life shattered. And I'm not going to do that. And she still keeps insulting me. And each time I do, I bite back my bile and my temptation to expose her, and I go on with my day. That's not natural. That's not normal. I'm a person who lives by the laws of evolution would say that's weak and stupid. But without that impulse, you couldn't have Western civilization where millions of people don't lock their doors at night. Because it used to be so safe.
Merciful. I mean, that kind of attitude is just merciful, and that's Christian. And I feel like a lot of people are not realizing that this. I mean, now we're in this late stage post-Christian decadence and degeneracy where it's just all the compassion and none of the discipline. But you know, I think a lot of people are walking around with this Christian worldview, and they don't realize that it's specific only to Christianity. You know, having mercy and compassion for others and letting something go and having forgiveness and not crushing someone when they deserve it, and you should do it, and just kind of having that discretion. It's all Christian. And I feel like it's not, people are not realizing what comes from Christianity. There's a lack of understanding about the values that come from Christianity, which are not universal, which are only Christian.
You're right. I mean, that's what they took. They took what Christianity made, and they were convinced by, you know, those I won't mention right now, you know, that that Christianity was actually evil, and so it was twisted. You're right. I mean, they took. It's kind of like. You know, you take what your, I don't know, maybe your past 3 generations, your ancestors made, and you completely discard, you know, what they sacrificed to make it, you know, what they, all the work that went into it, all the pain and discipline, and you're right. I mean, it's Christianity that made this, and it's only, even, you know, I've mentioned in our Hangouts, even in Christian societies where not everyone is a Christian, there's still that prevailing ethos throughout the society that kind of ensures that that it will remain that way, and we've lost even that.
Like, even if you look at, like, I read my kids King Arthur, and they really like King Arthur, and if you look at all the stories in King Arthur, you know, they're Christian knights. They have a Christian ethos, which is protect the weak, you know, and help the weak who are in trouble. And it's really particularly Christian. Like, you don't find, like, you know, I'm not that familiar with the Hindu gods, you know, but you don't find, you know, I don't know, Hindu gods or whatever who are, maybe there's one, I don't know, whatever. But, you know, it's not a universal, this protect the weak value, but it's been perverted and it's in this degenerate form now where it's just sick. It's this, it's just destroy our own society viewpoint, and it's not got to do with Christianity. I mean, It's really crazy. I mean, it's crazy to me that people would think it's got to do with Christianity. When you see Christian communities being persecuted and killed, I don't understand how people would, I don't get it.
Neo-pagans often use the argument that, oh, our societies are great just because we have a high IQ. Well, Asians have higher IQs than us. Jews have higher IQs than us. So if IQ... Excuse me? I didn't hear that.
I said not me. Jews don't have higher IQs than me.
Well, that's a big check.
Loretta is the answer we've been waiting for.
Yeah. She's the hero we needed.
There are many of us out there. Don't tell.
Yeah. So it might seem momentarily, it might seem weak to turn the other cheek to slight, and I double underline the word slight insults. You don't turn the other cheek when your life is threatened or the honor of your family is threatened. However, you do turn the other cheek when you're insulted, because that leads to a peaceful society. God's law is the ultimate law, and he put it in place for our good, not for our enemies' good. And that's why European societies were so safe, so high trust. There used to be talks about people in Europe who received welfare and out of guilt swept the streets, even though the governments didn't make them. There used to be cases where people would find cases of money and give them back because, and to be fair, even atheists do this because, as Jesus said, the law is written on your hearts. So the impulse to be good, the desire to be good, doesn't shed easily from the human being. Of course, you can beat that out of people. You can make them into psychopaths if you try hard enough. Look at the Soviet Union. But the law is written on each of our hearts. And people just assume that this is human nature. They assume Christianity is human nature, but it's not. The human kindness is the product of a doctrine, not out of human nature. This tabula rasa, where everyone is born a blank slate and you just program him like a hard drive, is false. They don't get, because the media lies. CNN it really is fake news, because nothing is more red-pilling than watching Africans carve out each other and wear each other as medallions.
But how many people do you think really believe the tabula rasa thing? I mean, I know non-whites don't. No non-whites believe the tabula rasa thing.
Every white person except about 20,000 white people who are on the alternate right sphere.
I don't buy that.
Well, the thing is, I think it's not even so much a case of, you know, see, sometimes we kind of give our I'm not going to say our enemies, but, you know, those among us who are weakest and dragging us down, we kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that they're actually considering things on their, you know, on their merits. And I think that a lot of this has to do with people in European societies have finally been, you know, given carte blanche to, you know, take the path of least resistance, which is to say, okay, the tabula rasa, okay, the noble savage, okay, you know, there's no external pressure coming to bear on you know, again, you know, even when we lived in societies where you would have whatever, you know, the cranky old village atheist, you know, people still acted as if they were Christian, you know, because there was that external force. Right now, it's just the opposite, you know, and I think further, you know, what's exacerbating things is I think a lot of white people who might otherwise be inclined to just kind of try to connect with their impulses, you know, that are just a part of them. They're looking around and they're saying, what's the use? You know, I mean, all these other people are, you know, I work, I pay taxes, I can't afford to have kids, You know, I'm paying for, I don't know, Shaniqua or whatever, you know, to have her 4th kid, and I think that some white people are just kind of, you know, checking out. You know, it's there's just no there's no, it's like a disincentive.
In that scenario, Shaniqua is the smart person, because Shaniqua has 4 children, and you know, the person who's sacrificing for no reason for a society that doesn't care about them is the person who don't understand where they're coming from.
Well, this is why we now have, you know, considerable momentum with reactionary movements, the alt-right, etc. Because, you know, you know, God bless them, whether they're Christians or not. These younger people today, they're, you know, as opposed, I'm Generation X.
Me too.
Yeah, as opposed to us, you know, I think when we were when we were their age, we were kind of like, yeah, this is kind of weird, you know. I probably shouldn't rock the boat too much, but something seems awry. Like now, it's at the point where they can't ignore it. You know, it's urgent. It's very urgent, and so that's why we have these movements now, because there's no ignoring it now. You know, it's actually a matter of life or death. And God help any people who pushes white people up against a wall. You know, as long as there are 2 or more white people left. You know, I mean, if you really push things that far, and I'm not trying to say that violence is good or anger or whatever, but when you push people,
when you push people,
you know, when you threaten their lives, their very existence, you know, I mean,
I feel like that's part of why I'm on Twitter and I talk a lot, is because I don't want the white people to get mad. I mean, I'm like borderline myself, and I know what happens when white people get mad. And
it's not a hot anger. It's cool, calculating, and effective.
Yes. And they're very, So, but I mean, just with the Generation X thing, I mean, it's like things have turned such, like when I was in college, we had multiracial friends, and I mean, yes.
It seemed like everything was like utopia.
Yes, and there was a lot of nonsense. Like I had friends who wore a skirt, you know, I had a dork. Okay, there was a dork who wore a skirt, you know, and there was like nonsense on the fringes and stuff. But, you know, there wasn't this anti-white stuff. There was a lot of politically correct stuff, and a lot of that I ignored. But the atmosphere really turned a corner. It's really turned a corner. It's really much different than when I went to school in the late 90s. It's just the anti-white stuff is just, it became this defining narrative. It wasn't before.
Well, I think people.
Go on.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the problem is this: your fate was sealed the moment your country was founded, because you have liberal. Your constitution was based on the French Revolution, and
I hear you. I agree.
Enlightenment, secular ideas. However, their whole plan hinged on the fact that the population remained religious. Because if they stayed Christian,
free riders,
and white,
yes,
any type of Christian will do. Because if you're a Christian, you basically know duty to family. You know the hierarchy of helping others. You know to turn them away when they're lazy. He who shall not work shall not eat. You know these basic facts about life. But the moment the Constitution steered away from a religious population, then all bets were off. It was just a matter of time. In the 50s, as you said, it was just a matter of time before you got swamped. You were already swamped by Mexicans in the 50s.
Yeah, Alexis de Tocqueville predicted it.
Yeah, because all men are created equal and endowed by their creator. So in a meritocratic society, millions of Mexicans can't function in an American society where you get 3 acres and a mule and you're on your own. You need IQ, you need self-discipline, you need to not sell your crops for booze, you need very massive amounts of self-restraint. And even then life was short and hard. You used to die of your teeth. They would get infected and kill you. So this environment bred strong, healthy, moral people. And that's why your country worked at first. But when people get fat and happy, they need to be controlled.
Yep.
And that's you have no defense against this. Your constitution forces you to get invaded. Even people who are against immigration say, let's just tone it down. You can't say, let's stop people of other races immigrating into the US until they raise their IQs. You can't say that. You can't say, look at the rape rate. You have to let your daughters get every year.
Yeah, you can't. You have to have one or the other.
Well, I think you can say, look at the rape rate. I mean, I don't see why you can't say that.
Well, you can't discriminate based on race according to your constitution. So you have to let this happen.
Well, those discrimination laws are recent, though. I mean, the whole equal rights and stuff like that, that's not in the Constitution. But they were just assuming a country of Englishmen, of course. You know,
yeah. Christian Englishmen.
Of course. And they really free wrote on that, like Thomas Jefferson with his Bible where he took out all the miracles. Well, very amusing when everybody's Christian. You know, when you're living in a non-Christian society, you know, you value Christianity in a different way. So yeah, they were free riding on Christianity to a large extent, but they were assuming everybody was, yes, as you say, Christian Englishmen.
And let's take a step back here, because nobody's more nationalistic than me. I love my country with all my heart. However, we're Christian first and foremost. If Romania becomes a secular liberal republic, or more than it already is, I'm out. I love my country, but I'm out. This is not my people anymore. Christ said, you will be hated and persecuted.
And this is why, you know, begrudgingly, you have to respect Muslims, because they don't compromise on this. They never will. And this is, I mean, they go through, you know, humiliating defeat. They, you know, they're technologically backward and dependent on, you know, in this age on petrodollars, you know, but they don't compromise on this. The integrity of who they are as a people.
I'm going to have to counter signal you on this, because okay. Black Pigeon Speaks recently did a video of atheism as grand diligence or something like that, and the Amazing Atheist did a response. And
oh my Lord, I hate this already.
He was right. Even the secularization already started in the Muslim world. The reason why they're so violent is because this is a backlash. Muslims are usually this violent, but they feel this panic in the back of their heads that what's happened to France and the decadence that befell America is coming to them. So they're
right.
So they're still in large numbers and they're fighting back. And it may seem like a sea of Muslims, but they're degenerate. If you look at most terror, the 9/11 hijackers went to a strip club.
Yeah. But still, but how many degenerate, you know, former Christian kids do you see, like, you know, even though they're whatever, getting stoned and, you know, having cheap sex on a Friday night, whatever. You know, how many of them do you see, like, even speaking strongly in defense of their culture? And I mean, I just think it's I think that there's less willingness to accede that and among Muslims.
There's a difference of compatibility, because Islam and secularism are completely incompatible. So they clash. But secularism is just Christianity without God. So it fits.
Oh, that's an interesting viewpoint.
Well, it's kind of the product of it's the end product of Christianity. You know, Christianity, which is, you know, based on reason, on critical thinking, on exploring, you know, the reality with the senses that God gave us, to better understand it, to better live in it, to help. You know, it's the end result of Christianity, and you know, as we mentioned earlier, it's had that stripped out.
It's secular judo, because it's not. it's throwing secularism on Islam is like throwing water on fire. They absolutely don't match. However, secularism and Christianity have common points. Tolerance is a Christian virtue, as much as we are disgusted to admit it, at least in these days. So they didn't change overnight. They took one value, and the devil always lies in half-truths.
Yeah,
he does.
Right.
The devil doesn't say I'm a unicorn. The devil says I don't exist, or the devil says I have a point. So it warps the nature of Christianity, secularism, and that's why we're much more susceptible to it. It's like cancer; it's grown in our own body. For Islam, secularism is a virus. It's a foreign entity.
Well, I was thinking about this today. You know, like when you see how Muslims are acting in Western societies, you know, with their increasing numbers, you know, like, you know, how long do the globalists feel that they can, you know, kind of sit back until they start controlling them? And actually, you know, now that I think of it, I don't know if you guys listen to him very much. I know Ian listens to him or has listened to him. Reactionary Expat did an excellent piece, I think it was last year, about the future of Mohammedans, and it's really good. I mean, he makes a lot of sense about the prospects or lack thereof of them, you know, lasting into the future. But right now, you know, I mean, I just wish that we could revive in the hearts of Western men, you know, some of the fire that you see, even though they're degenerates among Muslims.
Well, what it could help us is, I said first being funny, and second is beauty, because I never wanted to come to a conclusion the way I came to mine, because I came to my conclusions through terror, through staring into the abyss, and it's staring back at me. Even though it sounds cliche, I'd like to say that Andrew Clavin, it's a point of pride to him that he waited until he solved his depression and then came to Christ. He wanted to see that I come to Christ because I love him, not because I'm desperate. However, the sad fact is that most people come to Christ when they see no other alternative. And I didn't want to come. I wanted to change my mind through beauty. And we need, nothing compares to the beauty of classical art. Sure, classical music may not be for anyone, but the sight of a classical building, everyone loves castles.
Classical music is for Europeans. What were you going to say, Loretta? Sorry, we cut you off.
What's Gregory's? No, you didn't. I didn't think you did. Gregory, what's your background? You're Romanian? You're Orthodox.
Yeah.
Are you in Romania?
Yeah.
Oh, I worked with a girl from Romania, but she was actually Hungarian. She's ethnically Hungarian.
So she's Asian.
Orthodox. I'm sorry?
So she's Asian.
She's Ava?
Asian.
No, she wasn't. No, she was
No.
She's ethnically Hungarian.
We have a joke that Hungarians are Mongol.
Sorry.
It's ethnic band.
She was Protestant from Transylvania.
Oh, well, my parents are Protestant, and I was Protestant for a long time.
And then she had a conversion experience, and then she converted to Orthodox. And I had a very interesting moment where I worked with a lot of Bosnians, because where I'm from is there's a lot of Bosnian refugees, and a lot of the IT guys were Bosnian. And I had a conversation with her and a Bosnian IT guy where they were both talking about how, I think it was their great-grandfathers fought for the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, this is cool. It's this Hungarian woman and this Bosnian guy. And we, you know, they shared a moment of, and he said he still had his, I think his great-grandfather's uniform. Cool, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really awesome.
I thought that was really cool. But yeah. Oh, I just wondered what. So you're Romanian in Romania, and you're Orthodox. I just wondered.
Yeah, I was a Baptist until very recently, actually. And I and I still struggle because my parents are, and my father very calmly explained to me that if you go Orthodox, you must realize that a chasm will open between us, and he doesn't mean that he won't talk to me anymore. He just says we won't relate to each other.
Well, Christ came into the world with a sword to divide us and to pit father against son, mother against daughter.
Well, it's not against, because I was always the mere Christianity type of thinker. Not that I'm a thinker. I think in that way. That's what I meant to say.
I was just trying. I was making pretense at like looking like a thinker, Gregory. That's all. You kind of walked all over that, but it's okay.
Well, I think that as long as you accept the divinity of Jesus Christ and the basic tenets of Christianity are saved, I think that I often have very much ire towards sectarianism in Christianity, because I'm sorry, there's no other word but dumb for the person who thinks that the Bible is straightforward. Ever since 3rd grade, since we started, the most basic types of poetry and text can be interpreted. In fact, except for science books, no truth is beyond interpretation, because human minds are fallible. We don't have absolute knowledge. So, the Bible. The difference between Christians and Muslims think that the Quran was dictated by God. Every word, including the commas, are sacred and unchanging. Christians, at least in theology, believe that the Bible is divinely inspired. And not only is it divinely inspired, but it has prophecy, it has songs, it has genealogies, it has many different genres. The Bible is a collection of books. So it's very hard to have a literalistic and fundamental interpretation. So I can accept where you see idolatry, I see beautiful icons. That doesn't clash in my mind. And I think that a father left us with these gaps in our reason can condemn us for having them. We are honestly trying to seek out the truth, and he sees that. The guy who died on the cross, a few seconds, he converted to Christianity a few seconds before he died. The thief.
Well, it wasn't even. I mean, it wasn't
That
Christianity.
was Didymus, Saint Didymus. Is that his name?
I don't know.
Oh, points to you for knowing his name.
Yeah. 10 points for Christ cucking. So that guy didn't know Christian doctrine. That guy was Christian. He didn't know. I bet he didn't know that Jesus turned water into wine.
But that's what the beauty of Christianity is. It's not like, you know, all these other religions like Islam, like Judaism. It's like, you know, step three steps to the right, then bow twice, then turn around once, then, you know,
wave the chicken around your head.
Yeah, wave a chicken around your head, but make sure you know, you've bled it for 2 seconds, you know, by a guy who's authorized to bleed it. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, whatever, not to disrespect them, you know, more power to them. They do what they want. That's fine. But, I mean, Christianity is much more flexible, intellectual, and gives people, you know, more of a human, and it's more redemptive. I mean, just like the thief on the cross, or, you know, there's more of a human dimension. Like, I always think about how Jesus was saying, you know, you're not polluted by everything what goes into your mouth, but by what comes out of your mouth. So it's that flexible. For someone who likes freedom, it's really, which everyone does. But, you know, it's so much different. I actually, honestly, like, being completely honest, I hate to hear it compared to other religions. It irritates me.
Yeah.
What compared to what now?
Other
I'm
religions.
sorry?
You said,
To other religions. I hate hearing Christian.
Okay.
I'm like, I guess I'm more like you know, what you guys are saying about, like, the Muslims, where I'm just kind of intolerant. And I hate to hear Christianity compared to other religions, because I'm like, it's the truth. It's not comparable, you know?
Yeah. That's like the height of intellectual laziness, you know, assuming that someone has the ability to use their intellect. You know, when you say something like that, that essentially says to me that, you know, we're done talking because you haven't even bothered to, you know, to even look into, you know, take a cursory look at what you're talking about. But, you know, isn't that pretty much the case with a lot of our, you know, ideological opponents? That they're not in it to argue in good faith, you know, which is why the best, you know, the best tack, I think, to take with them, you know, use the Socratic method and show their hypocrisy. And they hate that. You know, Satan hates to be mocked. And that's the best thing you can do with these people is, especially in front of people who aren't yet convinced, you show their hypocrisy. You know, and you don't even have to do it, you know, smugly or, you know, from a point of pride or whatever. That's what will best work in those situations.
Well, I think though that there's all like we're in a struggle, right? We're in like a conflict.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's all sorts of tools and weapons. And I mean, essentially, your view is kind of a more masculine view, and my view is more of like a more feminine view. You know, more of like an intuitive, you know, kind of more primitive, more peasant view. Like arguments don't matter to me. I just, you know, feel it in my heart. I believe it. That's how it is. And I think that both, you know, both versions are useful. You know, I think arguing, I mean, someone can argue with me and they can be a better arguer than me. It's not going to move me. It's not going to change my mind. And, you know, and also there's that emphasis on intellectual reason and argument is, to me, there's some problems that go along with it.
Well, the thing is, Loretta, you get it intellectually. You could actually, you know, if it came down to it.
Necessarily.
Well, but I think you could. I think if someone actually approached you from a position of good faith and showed an openness to, you know, listening to the points that you had to make and how you form them, you know, what sources you use to come up with those and why, that's one thing, you know. But what I'm talking about is these people, they don't care. They really don't. What they care about is shutting you down, you know, which is why the word racist is now giving way to, you know, like Nazi and fascist. And I agree with what you're saying. We need to take every possible approach that we can. And there's definitely something to be said, something important to be said about the different strengths that women have compared to those of men. Absolutely. And this is something that more and more young ladies are starting to figure out, that, you know, they've been, well, they've been robbed. They've been robbed of the true strength. Oh my goodness,
they've been robbed. They've been robbed of everything important. It's a crime. I mean, people have been robbed of grandchildren. You know, they thought they were raising their daughters to be these ladies and they were doing the best for them, and they were, you know, I went to Cornell, I went to law school, I became a lawyer, you know, then I got married and I got pregnant, I got divorced, it didn't work out. Nothing I did in my life, I was always trying to please my parents. Nothing I did in my life pleased them more than giving them a grandchild. No, not graduating from Cornell, not graduating from law school, not passing the bar, nothing. And
I bet nothing made you happier either.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I mean, I think that a lot of
even though you don't get to travel now. Oh well. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's what you always hear. Like, oh, I can't believe you want to have a kid. Like, don't you want to, like, you know, take some time and travel and
find yourself?
I'm joking. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I thought like that. I thought like that when I was young, for sure. And I thought you won't be able to go out. You won't be able to party. You know, you'll lose all this money. You'll lose your figure. That was a big one. You know,
I know, like that's the, you know, that's the pinnacle of your self-worth and your assets. And
yeah, well, that's what society is telling young women, and it's really criminal. It's like setting people up for, you know, depression and
not to encourage actually losing your figure. Here on the Reactionary Ian show, we encourage. Jesus died for your gains. Everyone has to lift.
This gives us a good chance to introduce our figure. See, I think people on the left really started getting afraid when they saw how many young ladies were starting to embrace, you know, traditional womanhood. Because I remember, I remember being, and I'm sure Loretta remembers this too. You know, back when we were kids, like the one, you know, the main pro-white group you would hear about were the skinheads. And like everyone just loved to make fun of them because like whenever you would happen to see a picture of them in a magazine or something like you know, at some you know, punk show that they would have, you know, everyone would be like, oh, yep, no women there, of course, you know, looks like a great movement you got there. Yeah, it's there are so many women who have figured out that they've been sold a bill of goods, and their mothers have been sold a bill of goods, and they're not backing down. You know, some of the women I see on Twitter, I'm so proud. You know, I'm so proud of them as a European. You know, just these are young ladies. You know, they're not. You know, it's not like they're older and experienced and have. You know, when you're younger, that's when you're most vulnerable. No offense to women, but especially as a woman, you know, to social pressure. And these young ladies aren't backing down. And I think that scares the heck out of the left.
Mm-hmm. I think too, like if you look historically at the way Christianity spread, it often spread through women. Like if you look at St. Augustine, his mother was Christian. If you look at Clovis, his wife was Christian. Yeah. So you often find a believing woman. I mean, because we're talking about building up the males, but building up the females is a very big deal as well. I mean, it does, there's no, females and males go together. They go together. They've always gone together. That's the way life works. They are complementary and they're inseparable. They live together. They die together. If the men die, the women die. If the women die, the men die. So, you know, but all this atomization of the sexes is you know, a way to destroy society.
Well, it's also an inversion of the, you know, what is traditionally the essence of each, because, you know, women have been convinced that they need to act like, you know, the lowest common denominator among men, and men have been convinced that, you know, they need to be effeminate. And, you know, just like what you mentioned with St. Augustine's mother, you know, that's the apotheosis of female strength, you know, because
you got it.
You know, you know, this is something that women have that men need, you know, that forbearing, patient suffering, you know, which you know, which they've been convinced, sadly, in you know, the past 2 or 3 or 4 centuries is a weakness.
But also, women used to be respected and rewarded for that. You know, and not anymore. Like nobody cares. If you're a mother, nobody cares. You know, it used to be, even when I was growing up, that you know, there was a respect and a reverence for motherhood. And that doesn't seem to be around so much anymore.
Well, they are antinatalist when it comes to our populations. But there is a thing with women. I honestly believe that, and this is my inner nerd coming out, that the whole human existence is a giant escort quest. Because men exist to facilitate the safety and the future of the next generation, and by extension the women. So that's why people say that the Bible is misogynistic. No, the Bible and God by extension wants to underline the importance of women, and how if the womb of civilization is corrupted, nothing can be done. So, and the female body, the female animal, can be subject to base impulses as horrendous as those of males, not as direct. So, for example, males might get more psychopathy, more violent, but women get hypergamous. Single mothers raise future psychopaths or future prison populations of women left to hedonistic impulses. Are you familiar, Miss Loretta, with the 80-20 rule?
With the, I'm sorry, the what?
I am. 80-20
rule.
What's the age? No.
So if left to their own devices, humans without any moral code would mate. 80% of the women would go after 20% of the most attractive males. And this creates a very dysgenic situation, because the 20% males who have good genes have no incentive to settle down, because they can get a different woman every day. And the women aren't being provided for because they have lots of competition and there's no more monogamy. So the woman ends up with dried up eggs, and the man ends up pleasured, but ultimately without kids, without investment. And this is a situation that we see in the animal kingdom and, surprisingly, in the Western world.
You know, on the 80-20 rule, I remember Stefan Molyneux had a good video about that. It doesn't apply just to mating. It applies to, like, most things statistically. Like, I remember learning about in advertising how they say that the 80-20 rule is that, like, 20% of the people will buy 80% of your products. Is how they put it.
Yeah, I kind of don't buy it. It's one of those, you know, like 80-20 rule. Oh, you know, I mean, okay, I get the point. I mean, it sounds like New York City, where you have, like, you know, tons of women, and yeah, and everybody's the men can kind of do what they want. Sure, yes, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of this alt-right stuff, you guys kind of, and I find this with, I don't know, with I guess wasps to some extent, where you kind of like you formalize things and you put, I mean, although Gregory isn't a wasp, but you put it into these like
No,
Lumen's
sorry.
not a wasp.
Okay, I dispute the formula. I dispute the formula, but I get what you're saying, sure. And I mean, it's kind of like it's third world. It's like a slave situation where
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get
New York City works like that. Yes.
The village chiefs get all the women. The women are not valued because you're much more valued as a person's single wife.
But the men are not that valued either. I mean, yeah, sure, the head honchos get a lot of women, but they're not valued for themselves. I mean, they're valued for their strength in warfare. Okay, fine. But it just seems like everybody loses their humanity in that sort of a situation. It doesn't.
Yeah. That's why we need monogamy and Christianity.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And the thing is, we don't really have like a monogamous society anymore.
No.
I think the problem, like, we were sort of seeing this break down where
far from it.
Yeah, it's actually gotten to the point where it's okay to, you know, to make it a joke, you know, to, you know, almost like oh, isn't that quaint, you know? It's sad, it's pitiable.
Who do you guys hang out with? Like, I find that a lot with the alt-right, where I'm like, well, everybody I know thinks it's terrible if somebody cheats on their spouse. Not everybody I know, but I mean, there's still a kind of
no. The problem, let me explain our perspective. The problem is, I'm using the word perspective again, but the problem is perspective, because people are taught that they should get married because it makes you happy. And that is a fundamentally wrong statement, because in the past, it used to be explained to you like this. Listen, millions of people have come before you. Millions of people will come after you. It's your turn to do your duty. You were given birth. You were given a society. Now it's your turn to give back. So you better get married and you better have kids. And it will be fun. It will be tragic. It will be sad. It will be everything. It won't just make you happy, but you have to do your duty. Nowadays, if you just think as a woman or as a man, I have to get married because it will make me happy. That is wrong, because the human mind works on pleasure hormones and neurons get desensitized, so it is physiologically impossible to be made happy by the same stimulus. That's why drug addicts have overdoses, because they have to increase the dose. That's why porn addicts usually become impotent or have to move on to more degenerate porn, because they get used to the same quantity of pleasure. That's what happens with love. You get used to it, and you fall out of love and you panic and you get divorced because you think this is for you. No, this is not for you. This is for the next generation. It's your turn to give back. And that's why we have so much divorce. As long as you see marriage as something for you, your marriage will fail.
But it also is actually something for you when you have a Christian marriage, because as you know, Gregory, from reading C.S. Lewis, you know, where he pointed out that
you're implying that I can read. People in Eastern Europe can't read.
We're trying to make you look good here. But you know, love is, it's a choice that you make every day. And you know, you'll hear from a good priest, you know, I remember hearing from our pastor, you know, you choose who you marry. You know, it's really nice if they're attractive to you. Sure. It's really nice if there's whatever compatibility, like if you respect their intellect, whatever that is. But you're getting married primarily, you should, based on their virtue. And that's something that will help you in your journey with Christ, in your efforts at moving towards salvation. You know,
it also is for you. However, the primary purpose, that's why
I agree. I agree with what you're saying.
Church
absolutely.
Didn't.
You're just the most recent link, you know, between between our forebears and posterity. You know, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I often stare, because I have very long bus rides to work, and I often stare out the window and wonder how many generations stepped on this exact piece of ground. How many people with the same wishes, desires, dreams, how many youths and old men, how many young ladies and older women step before here, and it's my turn to exist and my turn to do my duty because they did theirs. That's why I'm here. And this is the vision. If you push this happiness thing, you're gonna get divorced. Believe me. It is also full of happiness, but it is also full of strife, because if the purpose was happiness, then the church would have allowed divorce. You couldn't go to a Catholic priest in the Middle Ages and said, "Father, I am unhappy." Oh, by all means, get divorced then. No. We have to instill honor and duty back into society, because this is a very American capitalistic sensation that we have to appeal to people's self-interest, people's selfishness. Yes, it is very good. Selfishness can make you invent a computer that can make you a billionaire. It is exactly right. But only duty can make you jump in front of a bullet. Only duty can make you jump on a grenade. Money won't make you sacrifice your life, because it defeats the purpose. If you kill yourself for money, you won't get to spend it.
Again, St. Augustine, you know, we were made by God, and we will only be satisfied when we're in God. And again,
fucking me from.
What was that?
Sorry.
But Loretta, was that the question you were asking that you don't? Did that answer the question you had, or
what was the question?
Well, you were saying that you don't understand the perspective, or that a lot of people in the alt-right have about.
No, I just think I'm less categorical, but I think that you know, I mean, a lot of the people in the alt-right are kind of like nerdy intellectual people, and I'm not really that nerdy and intellectual. I'm just a good test taker. But there's a lot of like, I mean, even this like, oh, you know, IQ data. I just don't care about IQ data. Or, you know, 80-20 rule. Like, I get it. I object to the formulas because I take formulas seriously. And it just, I like, you know, like proof and evidence and stuff. So it just kind of, you know, when there's an 80-20 rule, and so, you know, it's just kind of a nifty rule to talk about, fine. But, you know, I get it, yes.
Well, let's not do it. 80-20, can you hear me?
Yes.
But let's not call it, let's call it a large number of women gravitate to a small number of men. It's the same thing. I'm not attached.
Yeah, it's just animal nature. Animal nature.
Yeah, that was my point. So it is common sense that women, when they're young and attractive, will seek out young and attractive males. The problem is this: the best males will get most of the women.
I don't even know if the best males will get most of the women. I mean,
well, the most attractive ones.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of like, who's in the right place at the right time that goes on with it. Like that's a lot of the, I have an objection to Darwinism, because it's acting as though, you know, everything gets stacked up and then the fittest wins. The fittest often does not win, even in nature. You know, accidents happen and.
Well, this is the point. There's basically a simulation, because it's easy to simulate mountains clashing or weather systems, but when you simulate civilizations clashing, you have a system called game theory, and every time you run that simulation between a single sociopathic individual and an altruistic individual, the altruistic individual will get eaten alive. However, when you scale things up, and when you do it on a civilizational level, even by Darwinian logic, the selfless people win. Because being selfish is good only if you're in a selfish system, and only on a small scale. It's like being a musician. Thousands of people attempt it, but only a select few live well off it. This is sociopathy. Only a few sociopaths can actually succeed. But being kind may disadvantage you on a personal level, and that is anti-Darwinian. But it is also Darwinian that on a large scale, if you want a stable society, you have to have, for lack of a better word, gullible and kind people.
Yes, absolutely. And we're losing that. We're losing that, you know?
Yeah. We are becoming low trust societies.
Yes.
That favorize backstabbing, and that will make it even hard to be a Christian, because I often get strange looks, even here in this traditional society, when I advocate for being the better man, letting things go, not cheating on your partner.
Well, this is what happens when people look around and they see.
Well, they see millions of people cheating, so
exactly.
Be a fool not to cheat yourself. You
give people the option to take the path of least resistance, and depending on the society, you know, it'll be to a greater degree or less. You know, the more people are struggling, say, just to put food on the table for your kids, that's going to give you, you know, a little less time to really consider the ethical nuances, and you know, people are, and this is tragic. You know what we've done. You know, we've actually set up a system, or we've allowed a system to be set up that, you know, dehumanizes people wholesale.
And you can't just that's the point. They will eradicate us, because if we have a giving society filled with thieves, opportunists, and cutthroats, you either will be exploited out of existence, or you'll be programmed out of existence, because you have to become cutthroat in order to keep up. So if a person lies and backstabs you, and you just sit back and pray to God, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, that's not going to last long. You're gonna lose your promotions. Your neighborhood will be flooded with people who will ultimately overwhelm and change your culture. So they will overthrow the very church that campaigned to bring them here.
Well, I think it's important to recognize, like, where it's a moment where you should roll over and go for the forgiveness Christian path, and where it's a conflict moment where by not doing that, you're defending Christianity. I mean, the moment where you should roll over all the time is for your family. You should be rolling over and forgiving and turning the other cheek constantly for your family. When you see someone who's attacking Christianity, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of, and I see with the Protestants, and I see with a lot of the Christians on Twitter, that there's a lot of, there seems to be a lot of work that and maybe Gregory can identify, but there seems to be a lot of work that goes into Christianity. Like, you're not a good Christian because of this. You're not a good Christian because you didn't have this judgment, or you didn't do this. And I had to go to church every single Sunday until I was 18 years old. I have priests and nuns in my family. I'm a Christian. I don't care what anybody says. So I have a tribal quality to it, that where that just rolls off my back. It doesn't work. And I think yes.
Go on. Sorry. I have lags, so that's why I keep cutting in, because it cuts off. So I think I can speak. Go on.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
We all know the internet.
I often ask people this question: you have money, and your kid and a stranger is starving. Who do you feed? And everyone says, my kid. And then I just expand the circle. I say, you have 10 apples and 100 people are starving. And and 9 other starving people are living next door to you. And they're your neighbors. And you've ate at the table. You share their beliefs. They've helped you out in the past. They know you by name. How is it a moral thing to give it to some person from across the planet? And if so, why? Why is it the person starving next to you less important than the telescopic philanthropism of sending crates of food to third world savages who don't care about you?
Well, the Catholic Church has this covered with subsidiarity. I mean, that's the
you can have and there's a difference between giving a man a fish and teaching him how to fish. So you can invest in the development of a country, but just dropping crates of food on them is stupid. Because it's like parents who keep their kids into college for art degrees. You keep subsidizing his or her behavior, but what happens when the money runs out? He'll be inept. And that's what we do to Africa. They can't grow their own food.
You were asking what subsidiarity is, Loretta?
Yeah, I'm Catholic. Okay. Never heard of it.
It's just the concept that whatever authority is closest to a problem and capable of dealing with it is the one that should deal with it. So if your child is struggling with, I don't know, something at school or behaviorally, whatever it is, then it's up to you to deal with it, and in the family, going out into the community, it's just, it's against the idea of, centralization.
Yeah, but it's still, one thing I don't like about the Catholic system is it's still kind of a legalistic, I mean, it sounds legalistic on the face of it, that the nearest authority should deal with it. I guess you're talking about the authority of a parent with a child?
Yeah, or anything at all. In relation to what Gregory was just talking about, when you still have, someone in your community that needs to be taken care of, that's what you should be thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Are you Catholic, Lumen?
Yep. Yes, I'm Catholic.
And you were an atheist and you became Catholic?
Yes. Yep. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but it was never. It was just kind of something that that my mother did, because she was raised Catholic and she thought it was the right thing to do. But it wasn't. It wasn't a strong upbringing. It wasn't something that until I got older and into my 30s and once I started really exploring, once I started noticing.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, doesn't that illustrate how powerful women are? I mean, that your mother exposed you to Catholicism. My husband's like that. My husband was his mother and his grandmother brought him to church as a child, and it stays with him. And he's Christian today, and it's just it's interesting. You often find that you'll find a man who's got Christian and committed and has like Solzhenitsyn. I mean, Solzhenitsyn was basically Christian. Like his mother brought his father died when he was like a baby, I think, and his mother brought him to church. And you often find that because and in my opinion, and maybe this is not always correct, but in my opinion, men can kind of, how do I put it, like affect more action than women can in some.
Well, we're the raw, creative, and destructive force of society.
Yeah.
Men build stuff or tear it down.
Women help to refine things. Women help to take the rough edges off. You know, women provide, well, and they also provide the strength and the opportunity to recover and rest and to kind of, you know, step back from the brutality of things.
Basically, men were meant to fight and defend so the feminine can exist, and I don't mean so women can exist, so people get to love each other, so people get to nourish and feel safe and all of these things, and we are more expendable than you in that sense. I truly believe that men are more expendable. If I die, whoop-de-doo. But if a woman dies, a womb dies, a mother dies, a confidant dies, it's much more important. That's why religion can seem misogynistic. Because of your importance, you have to be more guarded. There's much more discipline recommended for women than for men. Exactly why there's much more discipline needed for a nuke than for a handgun. Because a handgun, even if it goes awry, it kills one person. But if a nuke goes off, it shatters an entire society. Women have to be not controlled, but educated to fulfill and blossom. Like
I think women too, as we can see right now with what's going on, need to be protected. And at this point, women are just really out there. They're not protected at all. I mean, with the stuff you see on Twitter, with the, you know, the liberal emphasis on promiscuity and stuff, it's nuts.
Sadly, we can't help you here. Not you personally, but you as a gender, because it's rejecting us. We're screaming at the top of our lungs, come over, grab our hand, come over to us, and you're saying, I'm my own person, you're not my man, stop oppressing me. And I'm sorry, but as we've seen in Europe, the first victims of multiculturalism are women.
Exactly.
I can defend myself. You can't. You have the strength of a 13-year-old boy. And
I remember Millennial Lowe's had a video where he talked about that in Sweden, how there were some men trying to start this like thing to protect women, and these feminists are like starting this campaign saying, "We're not your women."
Yeah,
you don't know us.
After the women got attacked, right?
Probably, but the Millennial Lowe's is talking about how he's like, look, let me make this clear. If you're telling us that you're not our women, that you have no loyalty, we have no reason to defend you.
Yeah.
Well, you can't just declare that you're not our women, just like I can't say to my dad, you're not my dad.
I think they can. I think they can declare that they're not their women. So by default, they're the, you know, immigrants' women or whatever. So good luck with that. You know, good luck with that. You know, they'll, I feel like saying that to every feminist who's talking about Muslims are wearing a headscarf or whatever. It's like, go get married. Go get married with you know, what this culture that you profess to love so much, and live by their rules and live under it. And
don't recommend that. Remember, the Middle East was Christian. The entire Middle East, including Egypt, were Christian countries. So we can't afford if European man, because we sometimes in order to recruit, we often overemphasize the forgiving nature of the Lord. But let's not forget that his chosen people are now abominations, and he called them the synagogue of Satan. So we have seen in the past a chosen people falling into disgrace, and that doesn't guarantee that Europeans won't be these disgraced people. Who knows? Maybe Christianity will spring in China or something. So our salvation isn't assured, and that's why I'm saying you can be saved until a point. Usually, for a normal person, death is when grace ends and when you can't change yourself anymore. But how can women can't go too far with this, and we can't rescue them. That's why I'm saying that we can't protect women if they run away from us.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And we lose our purpose. We're like a tank
Yeah.
gathering rust in a garage somewhere in a military depot because we were bred for battle. Everything about us, our binocular vision, our muscle mass, our aggressive nature, everything we are was designed to protect you guys. And here we are rusting in front of computer screens because you want to be CEOs or something. And it's a total disgrace and a mockery against human nature. And
well, I think that the more momentum gains, I would think, I mean, the more momentum gains in Europe, then nobody's going to be rusting. I mean, there seems to be plenty of material if you look at Rotterdam in England. But I don't really see men stepping up in England. But the English are so demoralized.
Well, you know who you see stepping up? You see two types of people. You see people who have nothing to lose, so you see people on welfare or factory workers, and you see people with families like Tommy Robinson. He has a reason to fight. I don't.
The men that did step up in Rotherham were arrested.
Oh, were they?
There were some fathers that demanded.
You go to jail and you get shanked by a Muslim, right?
Yeah, it's
no. There was a father who tried to save his daughter, and they arrested him for harassment.
You know, a little of that goes a very long way. A little of that goes a very, very long way.
This is why I say go. You know, once we're pushed far enough, we're like the stereotypical woman who remembers every little thing when the time comes. We'll remember this. We'll remember this stuff, and when the response finally comes, the fact
don't
that
be too quick. I think that
I know.
I think that revolutions in the past, for lack of a better term, were filled with spunk and hope. Very few revolutions, and I know not a single one, a revolution of hate that succeeded. Every revolution was filled with wide-eyed idealists. Even the communist revolution, there were commissars ready to lay down their lives because they believed. I'm not saying communism is good. I think it's an absolute evil. But I'm just giving you an example. So if you're just lashing out against leftists because we hate them, because they stole our lands, they stole our women, they stole the joys of fatherhood from us, we will cause some damage, but we will get put down like dogs.
Well, I'm thinking more, not so much revolution.
For something.
Well, it's like the Crusades. The Crusades were a defensive response. And there was hatred.
This isn't even like the Crusades, though, because the Crusades were to protect the city of Jerusalem so that European pilgrims could travel safely to the city of Jerusalem. This is like the invasion of Spain. This is our territory.
Yeah, and those were Crusades too.
That's the point. In all of these cases, people had something to fight for. What does a NEET have to fight for? He has nothing. He will never have. Let's say you are unlucky, so you're butt ugly, you're not particularly intelligent, you're of moderate intelligence, so you understand basic philosophy.
I think I can relate.
I think you can. So and in a normal Christian society, you would get the default package. So you're not particularly brilliant, but in a Christian society, you would get a moderately attractive wife, an average family, and a peaceful retirement. That was all you can hope for, and it was paradise compared to today. But now you are hopeless. You are absolutely hopeless. You can only play video games. You will get out of shape. You will eat lots of soy. You'll get man tits. You'll have a lot of estrogen. You'll never be in a fight in your life, so you'll have PTSD from someone staring at you. And how are you going to save the West? Seriously, you train warriors from the time they're born. You just don't put a gun in someone's hands and go save society.
I think people are very adaptable. I know I've been in situations where you just have to hit the ground. I mean, have a baby. I mean, you have to hit the ground running, and you might not be prepared in every sense, but if you have the will, you just adapt. So
having a baby is one of those moments that changes you, that's worth fighting for. I'm talking about people who have nothing to fight for.
Well, that's a lack of will, though. You know, I mean, it's not that you're fat and out of shape and like, you know, whatever. It's just a lack of will. You know, if the will is there, everything else can follow.
Well, will responds to incentives. You will towards something. You don't will, and it's not a blank space. You go in a direction.
I think people will towards, it's very, like a very easy example is people willing towards protecting their families, you know, protecting their spouses, even girlfriends, boyfriends, parents, children. So, I mean, if something like that is threatened, I know a lot of the women I communicate with on Twitter, they're mothers and they're freaking out. Like all the and grandparents, you know, all the parents and grandparents are freaking out because the future looks so dangerous for children. So I think that motivates. I mean, that's another reason why I wish the birth rate, if we get our birth rate up, because you know, yes, the birth rate is fantastic for bringing new people into the world, obviously, but every time somebody has a child, they become a parent, and that person changes their perspective like you wouldn't believe. I mean, there are so many, you know, disenfranchised white kids today that if they had a kid, they would change and they would get with the program and they would start to be engaged and they would care. They would care. And I mean, I'm like that. My husband's like that, right, honey? To some extent. You know, I mean, having children changed us a lot, and I think there's a lot of people out there like that.
Hello, Mr. Honey.
He liked what you were saying, Gregory. He came in while you were talking, went out, and he liked it.
Well, be a good father.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to say goodnight. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but
oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. But it was great seeing you all and conversing. God bless, and thanks to everyone who came to listen to us also. And thanks for hosting, Ian.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Lumen. It's always good to have you here.
All right, take care, guys.
Hope you feel better soon.
Lumen makes me wish Catholics weren't heretics.
That's it. I'm buying a one-way ticket to Romania. I'll see you soon. See you soon, buddy.
Catholics aren't heretics. Papists are.
Hi, Chinglican.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Big
You've
fan.
been listening in?
Me to your podcast? Yes, every time.
I went to LUE-YEE. Have you been listening to the conversation tonight?
No, I've been. I went swimming and then it rained.
Well, basically, Mr. Ian was telling us that traps aren't gay, and we were contradicting him.
Yep, that's kind of stuff we talk about here.
Wait, so
we even brought a real woman to show him what a real woman looks like, and he still won't believe it. He still says traps aren't gay.
Wait. What was the proposition at issue?
I think there's an episode of the Daily
you know,
there's an episode of the Daily Show where they cover that whole thing about traps gay or whatever. So. Wait,
am I on mute? No, I'm not.
No, I hear you.
Oh, what are traps? I think I get what thoughts are. I mean,
a trap is a very feminine presenting transvestite.
Oh,
so it's so feminine that.
Okay, traps are gay.
Yeah, traps are gay. So it's this meme that.
Depends what your definition of gay is. There is nothing gay about sodomy. It's not a happy thing. It's a sin.
Yeah, I wish we could have gay. Seriously, it's in the song from the Flintstones, for God's sake.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're not talking about this whole traps gay issue. No.
It was a joke. It wasn't supposed to be up for
saying, let's not keep on with this. I don't really want to.
I think
it's nice to talk to you in with voice. How do you say your name? LUE-YEE?
LUE-YEE.
I just called you Chinglican. So I think of you as Chinglican, but it's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to hear you.
He's the primary hater of Pharisees on this podcast. He's the Pharisee hunter.
Oh, well, you know, I suppose.
It's like the first scenes from Inglourious Bastards, only instead of hunting Jews, he's hunting Pharisees.
I mean, you know, Jesus had strong words for Pharisees.
And then
Paul had strong words for Pharisees.
Vipers.
John Chrysostom had strong words for Pharisees.
So we were just talking, Mr. LUE-YEE, about the fact that Europeans carried the tradition of Christianity for almost 2,000 years, but it's not written in stone that we are the ones who are going to keep it. And I gave the Jews as an example, as a chosen people who've fallen from grace. And I gave China as an example for a possible place of rebirth if we fall.
It's possible. I mean, God always has his... right, I mean, the center of Christianity used to be, you know, where it was, and then it got taken by Muslims, and God moves the epicenter wherever he wants it to be.
Yeah. There's this
true.
meme. Go on.
On the other hand, I think what we have observed is that every time that it moves, it carries something with it from the cultures that it's been in, and I think that's quite natural.
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't think you want to carry all of the cultural baggage, especially the stuff that's just not going to translate. But some of the stuff has actually clarified our sense of who God is, and that experience of these societies with God as he's revealed himself in his Son is very important, which is why, you know, not everyone was originally literally Roman or Greek, but we still engage with those theologians of the first councils of the church, and we interact with people who wrote in Greek and Latin, even if Greek and Latin aren't our native languages. So I think it's much the same with Chinese. I think it's even before even before the Christianization of China. I think we have other signs. China isn't on the traditional Chinese calendar anymore, right? Or it kind of is for certain festivals, but the fact of the matter is, for most intents and purposes, we use the Western calendar. That means we start on the 1st of January and we go to the 31st of December. And we have leap years the way that Westerners do. So that much, I think, does... that's, you know, by the ways that God has done that, it's been done. And so we follow a Western calendar, and people have naturally at least become aware of what Christmas is. Sure, it's mixed up with all this Santa Claus nonsense, but it's there, and I think people that's one of the ways that God has used to kind of allow Chinese culture to interact with more traditionally Christian cultures.
Quick question, Louis, not to get off too deep on the subject, but when did China start using the Western calendar?
Say around time of the Republic, I guess. Yeah, I think before that we were just on the traditional calendar. Yeah, I think it was sometime in the Republic.
I'm not satisfied with that at all, though, that we're going to lose Europe so that Christianity can move to China. I mean, that's all very well, but, Europe was Christendom. I don't think I agree that Greece and Rome can be just transferred to China. I mean, Greece and Rome are part of Europe.
I think that's true. I think that's true even for, say, the Copts and the Maronites, right? They, are overrun with but
no. Please understand what I was saying with that. There are people, for example, many priests in Romania say that, don't worry, the forces
Britton,
of
can you mute yourself?
Oh, hey, sorry.
A lot of noise there.
Britton.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So what I was trying to say is not that Christianity will move to another place in the world. I'm saying this: it's happened before. And don't be so self-assured. For example, many priests in Romania say, "Oh, the church has stood for 2,000 years. The forces of secularism won't manage to destroy it. The message of Christ will carry on." Indeed, it will. But maybe we won't be the ones who will carry it if we don't pay attention. That's all I'm saying. Your salvation isn't assured as a people. As individuals, yeah, you if you're a Christian, you're basically in heaven. But don't count on your people surviving.
Basically got one worked out.
From what I hear, that's a pretty good point. I mean, you know, it's like a lot of these people. I mean, kind of closer towards my spectrum. I mean, they have this, blonde girls in wheat fields kind of mentality that, you know, just because we're, you know, XYZ, you know, we're automatically granted access to, you know, XYZ.
Yeah. Never take things for granted.
Sure thing. I guess my point is that if Christian Europe falls, which it's already basically fallen because people have lost the will, there's no replacement that's good for me. I'm already upset that we're looking towards Poland and Hungary as a replacement for Western Europe.
Yeah, but the problem is this. Poland and Hungary are very self-assured right now, but it's basically posturing because these are very poor countries that rely on European funds. So the second that the European Union cuts off the funds, the very same people that you see carrying torches in nationalist rallies will turn on their governments to become more secular because they want the money.
Well, I think that's going to go on in Poland, right? Because they've refused to take refugees and the EU is coming after them.
If the EU truly comes after them, Poland will fall to the West. And there's a very old population, but the young people are avid consumers of American TV. I'm not a native English speaker. I can speak English because of your entertainment. And it also polluted my mind. I was a liberal. And it took a lot to bring me back to the truth. And most of the youth are liberals here.
It's true. Living in America all my life has polluted my mind.
Oh my God, you're right.
I think youth are naturally liberals anyway, though. You know, like I was saying, it's only when you have kids settle down and you toe the line. I mean, I think youth, it's not so natural for you. I guess youth like fascism, but it, you know, it's not so natural for youth to be conservative.
Well, it's natural for youth to be ambitious, regardless of the direction they choose to go into.
Yeah, that's true. That's more. That's more
you have youth. Most monks become monks when they're young. They, oh my God, I'm gonna pray the shit out of that monastery. You have this mentality when you're young. Sorry, language.
Yeah, well, I do think what Loretta is saying is true, though. I mean, you've heard that famous Britain. There's a lot of noise. I don't know where you are. Are you outdoors somewhere?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm something.
Yeah, I'm driving home. I'll hang up and I'll call you when I get to my destination.
Yeah,
okay.
sounds good.
Are you guys gonna be continuing for very long?
I think we're gonna go a while longer. I assume, unless everybody decides to leave.
Okay. All right. I'll call y'all when I get, you know, settled down.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
All right. See you. What's that? Anyway, what I was saying about Loretta, though, I do think that's kind of true, though. Younger people do tend to be more liberal. Like, there's that famous quote, if you're not a liberal at the age of 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're 30, you have no brain. That's kind of an idea. Like, younger people do want to be more optimistic about, you know, what could be done, what can happen, what, you know, the possibilities.
And younger people are wilder, and also younger people are more, they want, you know, they want the easy, quick gratification that the left offers.
Yeah, there's that too.
the left appeals to pay. They're humanists. We just covered this. They appeal to and worship human needs. So it's the religion of human needs. It's kind of hard not to be appealing when your platform is, we will satisfy your hunger and sexual lust and every kind of need you will ever need. You just the same thing with Jesus. Satan took him up on a mountain. Everything you see will be yours. You only have to bow to me. What Satan didn't acknowledge was that he was offering something to Jesus what is already his. And this is what the left offers us. We can have sexual gratification. We can have happiness in a Christian way. He doesn't have to gift it to us. We're not Puritans. We can have all the things that the left offer, and it won't burn us out. That's the point. They're stealing from your garbage, or they're stealing from your house, repackaging it, and selling it back to you. And that's all they do. They redistribute. They steal. Leftists don't have children. They poach conservative children.
Some do.
No, not really. As a statistic, no. Some do, yes, but we're talking general trends here. Leftists don't really have children. They indoctrinate yours in the universities. I don't know any professor with more than 2 kids. And I've met a lot of them.
Good at evangelizing their bad things. That's actually true.
Well, they're naturally appealing to the animal body which we inhabit. We had to hang people in the past to keep society from sliding in the direction that they're promoting to be moral. Imagine the gravest sins of history now being not only accepted but seen as virtues. This is a hedonist paradise. Hedonists for thousands of years, I bet, used to stare at the ceiling and dream about a time such as today, where their greatest depravities would be celebrated, and those mean old Christians would be oppressed and silenced. This is
unsustainable. It's not sustainable. The stuff that we're seeing today is not sustainable. One way or another, it's unsustainable.
Well, yeah, there will be a collapse. That's why I don't believe in politics. I'm just waiting for poo to hit the fan. And
young people like honor. They like to be honored. They like to be popular, right? And I think that young people like to be validated. Now that may be through, the ways that people has much to do with liberalism per se, but it is true that young people like honor. They like to be validated. Whereas middle-aged people have different priorities, right? They have their own children, and because they are in a certain stage of life, money then is more important at that stage of life. But when you're old and you have lots of money, you're not going to care, because you're going to care about your health. And so Aristotle says, when you're old, you don't care that much about being.
About what?
Yeah, he's getting cut out.
Sorry, LUE-YEE.
Well, that's the problem. White people live in high trust societies, and we like validation. But what happens when the society itself is corrupt? And it validates, it turns everything that was decrepit and hideous, it turns into a virtue. Then honorable people will fall in line, and they'll. This is why honor is turned against you, just like the cuck thing we were talking before we went live.
So what kind of response do we in the church give so that young people
you keep getting cut off.
Act honorable, and get the kind of opprobrium that they should get for things that are not honorable?
I think that Christians are living under the illusion, and this is our main problem, that these are still our societies. And because we think these are still our societies, we don't take measures to protect ourselves. If we just shatter this illusion, Christians will turtle. They will form isolated, close-knit communities and stop caring about what happens in the world. But because you think that America is a Christian country, or Romania is a Christian country, or France is a Christian country, you tend to extend your in-group to the entire nation. And that's why you can never win. If you see your group not as the nation of America, but the Christian community of New York, for example, or whatever you are, Mr. LUE-YEE, then situation will change. Honor will be serving your group, not a nation that you still think is yours.
And in America, my in-group is pretty small, which means that my pool of available women is generally pretty small, because my in-group is
Chinese Anglicans. Did I cut off?
UA-Lee is getting cut off all the time. I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
It might be my my Ethernet cable. So my in-group in America is...
Well, with Gregory, just because the mule stepped off the treadmill.
Yeah. My connection is so bad that it's ruining
I don't
your
know how
connection.
your connections are.
Your connection is dying of shame to associate with mine.
I know I'm Chinese, but...
So you were saying that your mate selection pool is very
I mean, I think my community, for the most part, is Chinese Christians, even Cantonese Christians. And of course, I have associates outside of those groups, but my immediate local community that is mostly going to be the people that I see over the weekend, at least at church and stuff. And sometimes I attend white church too, but even when I went to a mostly white Anglican church, I still went to a Chinese church with my parents in the morning. I just went to the Anglican church in the evening the same day. So for me, I have a very well-defined kind of group like that, because I'm Chinese, and even within the Chinese macro group, I'm Cantonese, so I speak Cantonese with Cantonese people. So to me, it seems harder for white people to define these sorts of smaller groups, because you're not used to working as a minority ethnic group, as Christians in some ways pretty much are in this society.
I think that there's a lesson to be learned from Romanian Protestants, because that's why I was attracted to Protestantism in my country. We went through this before in the comments. Mr. Ian asked, why are Protestants sometimes more conservative than traditional Orthodox or Catholic? It's simple. In Romania, Protestantism is a minority, so they adopt minority strategies. Also, they're subjective to market forces. They are there is no social pressure to become Protestant in Romania. So the only ones who do become Protestants are true believers. And the community is very insular. It adopts minority strategies, and it's very successful. If you want to live the most conservative life that you can in this country, you go Prot. And to this day, I doubt leaving it, because it's a surefire way to, for example, get a wife and not get divorced, because the Romanian Protestant community is very against divorce. But I'm saying adopting an almost incestuous strategy to your community is the way forward. But as long as Americans see themselves as American, this is not the nation your founders founded. This is not the nation even your parents knew. There are people who've never seen in their lifetime people like you who are now in your country. And they get a vote. You don't share values. You don't share genetics. Name me one single thing you share aside from an ID. and still you see yourself as part of this system. Why? Where's the reason in that? At least you and me, Mr. LUE-YEE, we're Christians. We have this in common.
Yeah.
But most new Americans aren't even Christians. They are some form of Catholic and Muslim. A lot of Muslims. Why are they your countrymen? What is it in common?
You know, speaking as an American, I think a lot of Americans are starting to, especially with the younger generation, they're starting to not get into being American so much. I think it's really the boomers who are, you know, mostly gung-ho Americans. And
God bless them.
Dying out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because the true America was embodied in the South, and the South was conquered.
Well, I mean, it had the North too, but the North is you know, really, I mean, somebody was saying today that the media reflects this Puritan Yankee aesthetic. I'm like, you find me a Puritan Yankee. My gosh, they died out decades ago.
Maybe in Cape Cod, somewhere.
Well,
I
there's
remember
the
going
Puritan.
to Cape Cod. It is completely degenerate.
There's like a janitor somewhere who's
absolutely degenerate. That place has to be firebombed.
You talking about Cape Cod?
Yes.
Never been
It's
there
like
myself.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
I think
Like,
Cape Cod's
when I went over there.
probably one of the more conservative parts of Massachusetts.
Really?
God.
I've never been there, so I couldn't say.
For one
I
thing,
was in
it's
Plymouth,
actually
and I thought that was
five
conservative.
churches.
There was a conservative guy
Normally.
gave us a tour. My gosh.
But I think Americans are starting to lose. I mean, actually, I mean, from my perspective, Trump was like kind of the last gasp of like being nice and being like, oh, like, you know, this is for America, make America great again. And Trump isn't delivering on a lot of issues. I know there's, you know, people are on an upswing because of his Poland speech, and it was okay, you know. But you know, people are really losing their religion. The younger people, I mean, what do they have?
You have pneumonia and you keep taking cough medicine. The problem is this: people are celebrating. Oh, the youth are more conservative. No, the youth are more classically liberal. So this is the situation that got us here in the first place. I have friends at my work who admire classical liberals and say, oh, Sargon of Akkad is making great breakthroughs. Dude, when the left came to us, they didn't come to us with pedophilia and transvestites and gay marriage. They came to us in the form of a smiling liberal. They dragged us here. So if liberals win again and again, the so-called modern conservatives, it will seal your fate. Trump let the air out of a balloon that should have just kept growing until it burst. It gave you a false sense of security.
Maybe that's not such a good thing. Maybe that balloon should have burst.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to let this play out. You can't just adopt half measures until the whole thing.
Well, maybe.
And that's part of I think what you're describing is accelerationism, right?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not an accelerist per se. I don't care when society collapses. My point is, when it collapses, I have to be there to say I told you so. And
You may not be there,
You also have to
but
be
I
there
think
with
in
an
the meantime
organized
we do have to
militia.
build the kinds of
that's the point. More and more of us have to learn this stuff. And when your butt hits the floor, as the Romanian saying is, somebody has to say I told you so. So be it me, be it you, be it some of the people we influence or who hear us, we have to do this. So for example, Mark Citadel influenced me. He recruited me. I mean, I was more of a secular right-wing guy before he laid out the full Christian argument until I became a reactionary. And he converted me. And maybe I'll convert someone. Or maybe you'll convert someone. The idea is we have to increase our numbers so someone will be left. These ideas
will be left. People will be left. There's, you know, there's quite a. I think people are more naturally conservative than you might think.
I mean, the thing is, of course they are. That's that's simply how nature. The thing is that liberalism, leftism, it's an unnatural form of thought. These people were made to think like this. These people were trained like dogs to think like this in public schools or wherever they learned it, universities. Conservative, truly conservative and traditionalist thought. That's what makes put bluntly. That's what ensures that your genetic line gets passed on, to the next generation, ensuring that your wife doesn't, for example, making sure that your wife doesn't sleep around, ensuring chastity and virtue. If you get cucked by 5 other guys, there's no guarantee that your kid is going to be yours. The kid that you're raising is going to be yours, and that's simply put suicide, genetic suicide.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not all about genetics, but no, I hear you. That's just complete human nature and completely normal. I really want the West to survive, and I want there to still be a group of guys who call themselves England and are still England. I want a group of Frenchmen who call themselves Frenchmen and feel like they're Frenchmen and understand what it is to be a Frenchman or to be an Englishman, and carry on the culture and carry on the tradition.
I would be very sad if there were no more France and no more England and no more Scotland. So yeah, definitely support.
I'm devastated. I'm devastated. I try not to think about it.
Yeah, I will, and I think you were talking about that earlier. I was listening to another podcast and they were saying the same thing. Europe could fall. Very well, this happened in the past, that happened to Egypt, that happened to Syria, it happened to
Lebanon.
Lebanon, yeah. And where we are right now in North America, we have this capacity to basically be a second Europe. We have, different regions that we can, we're like the Roman Empire. And
you have those Scandi regions up there, and
oh yeah. I think I remember comparing Minnesota to New Sweden and Illinois as being the new France, just given how they operate politically. But yeah, like as an example,
just extreme socialism, you mean?
What?
You mean just like extreme socialism?
Well, I know that Minnesota is like very. Oh,
Well, I know, yeah, there's a lot of Scandinavian blood in Minnesota, but I mean, as far as Illinois, you said they're similar to France. Is that because they're just...
They have a very large and confusing government. Like, it is very... I don't know how to put it. It's like corruptively socialistic. It has a large government. There's a slight right-wing bent. And, like, for example, recently you basically have an equivalency of Macron. He's like a Republican in office, but he's, like, very cucked. So it's... Like, they could barely get a budget passed through. And also because Illinois was colonized by the French. Like, way back before the British invaded.
Well, what about the Polish? I think Polish is the... I mean, I looked at a map that showed the...
Yes, you have.
I looked at a map that showed like the most common language spoken at home that's not English or Spanish, and Illinois is like the one state that's just like full of just Polish people.
Oh,
that's kind of around downtown Chicago, and actually I kind of saw northern Wisconsin and other little patches as being more heavily Polish. But yeah, I know a lot of Poles in the
Wisconsin's
area.
more German, its character.
Yeah.
What is German?
Wisconsin's more like the Rhineland. I kind of think of it as that because you have like a lot of Germans and French.
Yeah.
So it's kind of mixed there. I remember driving through there and some of the town names. It's like a mix between German and French.
It's Lutheran land.
What does Lutheran mean?
Lutheran.
Who knows anymore?
Oh, Lutheran. I would say it's more Catholic.
I the Midwest.
Lutheran is like Minnesota and the Dakotas.
But even when
which
you're
Lutheran
in
now?
Chicago and you're just driving around, you see these Lutheran hospitals, and that just doesn't exist in California.
And yes, I would say that like another, besides Lutherans and Catholics, I would say Methodists are like the secondary category group in the region.
They're English, right? The Methodists are English.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
weren't they? The Methodists were a breakaway from the Anglicans, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, John and Charles Wesley themselves lived and died in the Church of England, so...
Did they break away in England or America, the Methodists?
So they broke
In
away
America,
in
wasn't it?
America partly because of the War of Independence, and I mean, everything was just in disarray, and then the Methodists, who were Anglican, were just kind of like, okay, well, let's just do stuff. So they... So I think they had Asbury was made a bishop irregularly by John Wesley, which Charles Wesley actually disapproved of because he's like, well, you know, in the Church of England we have certain ways of taking bishops. You get a bishop to do it, and usually you get 3 to do it. So this kind of you being a presbyter making a bishop, I'm not quite on board with that. But that's
Also,
the way.
Methodists aren't posh. Like Anglicans are posh, Episcopalians are posh. Methodists not so much.
Methodists reached those classes, right? They
Hillary Rodham Clinton is a Methodist.
Yeah, I think the joke is that the Baptists went out on when the West was being settled. The Baptists went out on foot. The Methodists went out as circuit riders on their horses.
Yeah.
The Presbyterians waited until there were stagecoaches, and the Episcopalians didn't arrive until regularly scheduled train service.
Oh.
I
Which-
like that.
Which is not
The eternal
of course it's
Anglican.
more complicated than that, but it's a useful caricature.
I mean, Baptists are so recognizably American. Like, I would never have any doubt about Baptists being American. Methodists.
Westboro
more
Baptist
uniquely
Church is
Southern.
it's the true Church of America.
What is?
Westboro.
Oh.
Yeah. They should
fags, DDDDDXD.
they should be the official state religion. They should create it.
Yeah, I mean, even as a
Westboro
Lutheran,
is
yeah,
a-
I believe that Westboro Baptist Church is probably the most spot-on church that America has
Oh,
right
I
now.
don't. Are you kidding me? The God Hates Fags Church?
Yeah,
Yes, XD.
Yeah. They're not a really. I don't think anybody actually attends that church. It's just like a group of people calling themselves a church.
I think they pick it.
So that's how it is. You just call yourself a church. Okay, I'm the church that agrees with the Westboro Baptist Church, and I'm the Pope. And my first edict is that I agree with the Westboro Baptist Church.
Well,
That's
what's
a very
our Baptist church?
That would be a scary church to attend. Could you imagine? My goodness.
Nah, it's rather fun. It's rather fun.
Ugh.
We just throw darts at pictures.
and not, I
of
mean,
us.
not just Westboro. I mean, not just Westboro either. I mean, Pastor Anderson, while he has more digestible content, I'd say
Yeah, Pastor
for
Anderson
normal people.
is awesome.
I mean, his views are the same as Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, he'll be a
Just
deacon in
become
my church.
Anglican.
He'll beat down the faggot
All right,
if his point isn't getting
Let's
across.
not use
Sorry,
words like that on here, please. I don't want people complaining about it.
flagging.
That's not
and stuff.
Christian anyway, you know? It isn't.
Romans 1.
Yeah, but
What are you saying? What's not Christian, Loretta?
I'm saying that attitude isn't. You know, Jesus wasn't beating anybody down. I know, we're not cucked, etc. But, I mean, you know, I'm,
Temple.
Yeah, he did. The
Goodness.
money changers in the church, money lenders in the temple.
Well,
Well, I
there,
think
Oh,
there is a
that was the money
philosophical.
lenders in the temple. That wasn't some poor sexual sinner.
Wait. How many degrees of separation? Let's honestly talk about this, and let's not involve fags because we'll get banned. Let's talk about
watch
general harm. let's talk about someone who wishes us harm. So everyone can agree that you should attack a person who is obviously attacking you. But how many degrees of separation is that valid for? So, for example, if you know for certain that someone is planning your downfall, do you have a right to take action on that? You know, you have no doubt.
Sure. Yes.
So if you have a minority which is statistically more likely to endanger your kids, and also in the most savage, degenerate, disgusting, brutal way, because an unspoken truth, and this is not hate speech, this is a fact, most abused children become abusers themselves. This is how gays reproduce. This is how gays make other gays. They abuse
Preach,
children.
my dude. Preach.
So how can this not be a cause belli, a justification for war? You have a minority that almost exclusively breeds on child abuse.
Okay, but I think what Loretta is trying to say, and maybe she can correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea that it's fun to go around, you know, looking at certain groups and just saying, like, just abusing them or whatever, that's not a Christian attitude necessarily.
No. So I'm basically
draw the line at protecting your children, making sure that they don't get abused.
Britton, please mute yourselves. There's a lot of noise.
Sorry.
It seems like very far to be standing out. I mean, I don't see it as necessary. I mean, what the Westboro Church with their God hates fags thing? It's awful.
Well, I mean, with what's in the Bible as a Christian, with what's in the Bible, be it Leviticus, be it not Leviticus, Deuteronomy rather, be it Deuteronomy or Romans or Corinthians, why would a stance that falls in line with the Bible, why would a stance that falls in line with that be offensive to you?
Because
hold on.
when Jesus found sexual sinners, he said to them, "Go and do no more." You know, he didn't say
"Go and sin no more." But do these people sin no more? I mean, it's not like Jesus is a mystery to these people. It's not like Jesus. I mean, Christ and his teachings.
Message. I don't. I see it as an Old Testament message. That sounds like Old Testament. Yeah, God
Romans
hates
1.
Break them down, etc.
Well,
Hold on. Loretta, you're not disagreeing that homosexuality is a sin, are you?
Yeah. No, I'm not. Nope.
I mean,
So
we
he's
agree
just
on
going
that.
after the.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Miss Loretta. Is it right for Christians to exclude fags from their activities or
Language.
their insular communities? Do we have this right?
I guess it would depend. I mean, the thing is, though, if you look at, there's plenty of people with homosexual leanings who don't act on them. Like if you take.
I'm not saying repentant. No. Please understand me. I'm not saying repentant gay people. I'm not saying if you ever. I'm not saying if you ever had a.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference between
one at a time.
Go ahead.
One at a time.
Go ahead.
Gregory, finish what you're saying.
Well, I'm not saying that repentant gay people. For example, some people might have an urge to drink, but if they're not an alcoholic, I don't care about their urge. That makes them more virtuous. I would admire them more. A very conservative Romanian priest once said, the greatest joy gay people bring me is when they come and introduce me to their new wife. Because he brought young men back from the brink. But this is the problem. The human mind is like wet cement until you're 25. You can be very easily corrupted. So that's why we're struggling to keep these people away from kids. Kids can be indoctrinated. You can brainwash kids to blow themselves up. Look at Muslims. You can teach kids to do anything.
Yes, but you're arguing a completely different point. I objected to the God hates fags sign.
Well, he hates homosexuality.
I think that's the distinction that gets lost in that. It's like God, you know, if these people are willing to repent, God will accept them. It's just
Right.
say that
And the thing is,
and it's like, okay, you're this group of people, you're off to the execution with you. That's like the attitude behind it. I think.
right. Well, I mean, the thing is, repentance is different from saying I'm sorry. I mean, we all know what, you know, saying sorry. I mean, I hope we all know that. Saying you're sorry, anybody can do that. Repentance is to, it's to essentially be sorry. Anybody can say they're sorry. Not a whole lot of people can be sorry for what they've done, for who they are, for things that they're responsible for. I mean, because I hear repentance being misused. I mean, and not necessarily in these conversations, but I hear repentance being misused a lot, being in the form of, oh, I said I'm sorry, therefore I repent. Or just like, but the thing is that their behavior, their attitude, nothing has changed before or after they claim to have repented. They still engage in the same things that they get engaged in. They still have the same attitudes and viewpoints and everything. The only thing that's different is they say, oh, well, I told God I'm sorry. God's forgiven my sins.
Yeah,
I mean, has he, with that kind of genuinely non-repentant attitude, has he? Because, you know, with repentance, there is forgiveness. But if there is no repentance...
Repentance involves changing your ways.
Exactly.
This is not a personal sin. This is not just an isolated sin. I keep coming back to children. Please understand, the way neurons work, you are very, very influenceable as you are a kid. You can be turned. You're very susceptible to I changed my mind 16 different times until I got to my position here.
My objection was limited to the God hates fag sign.
Oh, so
it's this whole it's this whole idea of hate. In that
it's
hate,
the messaging.
it should be completely excluded as a word.
I don't like the hate. Also,
hate is recognized. It was recognized, just like, you know, people can be happy, people can be sad, people will love, and people will hate, and it's just a natural thing God put within us. You know, God hates. God does hate the devil. He hates it with a lowercase h. It's this. I remember the verbiage. There's a.
In fact,
there's the general hate with, like,
Hold on,
you know, basically
I mean, yeah. For example, God didn't flood
Hold on a minute. Hold on. Too many people. What?
Yeah.
What were you saying, Lightning Patriot?
I was saying that hate is sanctioned, and it's just kind of like a natural thing. People are naturally angry, and people will naturally hate. It's actually good if you're hating evil.
Yeah, but you're saying God hates.
We hate the people in power. We hate
yes,
these,
God hates.
You know, disgusting, you know, people, and we will do the worst shit to them.
God hates faggotry.
Exactly. I was having arguments.
When God flooded the world. I mean, when God flooded the world in Genesis, I mean, he wasn't killing the sin. He was killing the sinners. Those that defy him, those that go against him. When he left Sodom and Gomorrah, scorched craters in the earth, nothing left of them. He wasn't getting rid of the sin. The sin had already been committed. There's no getting rid of it. It's something that is permanently on the timeline. He was getting rid of the sinners. That was his wrath, and it was justified.
Right. I think the way that I look at it is
it's very awkward.
Good.
We'll say again.
I say it's a very awkward statement. I mean, goodness. You know, I mean,
you can say.
I mean, if I was required to stand around with a sign saying God hates faggotry, it would be embarrassing, but I could do it. But, you know, I mean.
Well, you don't have to. If it seems distasteful, you don't have to. We'll do it. We'll just keep your kids safe, okay? I'll get my hands dirty. Because
you're not going from like
guys, let's not talk about the Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, I think that even if they get certain things right, I don't know if they're like seriously a church. I mean, I seriously think they're probably. It seems like it's a troll job, if anything.
It was a
yeah, it's a troll. It's a meme.
So,
and you're not supposed to feel remorseful for making a joke. Remorseful for it because it's a joke.
It may be a bad meme, but
all these
it's a meme.
And I don't feel remorse for saying that in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a sense of humor too. And I mean, people going around going, God hates fags, God hates fags. Like, that sounds crazy to me. No, I mean, it's not, it's not an attractive
You're
message.
off these disgusting leftists. These disgusting leftists will push their, diversity bullshit. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with
watch the language, please.
Muzzies get out, something like that. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay,
That's
let's
exactly
move on from the subject.
I just think building up our people. I think our time is better spent and our focus is better spent on building up our people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
that's the part of building. If you build, here's the thing: if you build, okay, great monuments. What are they built of? They're built of granite. They're built of limestone. You don't see any monuments that are built of sand or gravel or anything. Just you don't see anything made of mud. I mean, not wet mud, but I mean, you need good building materials. You need good materials to make a good product. I mean, to make something good that's built up, whether it be a product or people or whatever. I mean, you can't use garbage to make a monument that people will look at and be like, wow, that's amazing.
And the problem is that they have a tendency to infiltrate, because these are childless people who have all the time in the world to climb social hierarchies. The Catholic Church, everyone knows this, is filled to the brim with the pink mafia, because they have time. They don't have families. They become the leaders of movements. Look at the far right. Everyone knows that one of the most influential leaders in the far right is a sodomite. And he's very good at what he does, because he, day in, day out...
Milo? You mean Milo?
No.
No. Richard Spencer.
I'm not gonna.
Not Spencer. Grinder Greg Johnson.
Oh. You're talking about Greg Johnson.
Speaking of which, let me. Yeah. Well, it's rumored that he's gay. Well, he is.
No.
Homosexual,
I think he admitted it.
I've never heard him admit it, but I just heard it.
Okay.
Hold on.
Guys, well,
Sam,
sorry. I have a very good idea that, like, these leftists are all childless. They don't have nuclear families. They don't have any kids, so they have all this time to devote towards, like, waging the culture war. And maybe one of the things that feminism did to the nuclear family, that, like, you have all these good men that can't find any wife, and, like, any wife that they find is like a used up EDM groupie that has been with 50 guys. Maybe not, I'm just being a little hyperbolic, but basically what I'm saying is maybe we on the right should adapt the same strategy of infiltration, like,
I disagree. I don't think infiltration is going to work for us. I don't think infiltration is going to work. I think rebuilding is better.
Well, what about, Laura,
no,
I have a question.
Maybe not.
I was going to say, what about...
I mean, infiltration on its own is just, I mean, the underhandedness, just the way that it works. I mean, it's a foul thing. I mean, it's not in our nature.
You get the situation.
If we're worth our salt, it's not in our nature.
I agree.
And you get the situation where you work with these people, they find out who you are because you're very close for years to them, and then if you're against gays, they threaten to dox you or something like that. And for you Americans here, it's not a problem because we don't have political correctness. But you say, for example, you work with a fag in the movement and you promote right-wing...
Please, can we stop using the word faggot, all those variations? I've been trying to say this, like, I don't want people getting getting in
Yeah,
trouble.
just use homosexual, sodomite, or just not the F word.
I'm really not going to invite people if they're going to use language like that because I'm really tired of the headaches.
Yeah,
Oh,
just anything
Sorry,
but the
I
F
like you,
word.
Gregory,
Okay.
but you really need to watch what you're saying here.
Maybe infiltration's the wrong word, but have like time as waging, as single people, since a lot of like the people on the far right and the alt right are single males that can't find any girl, like that's an advantage to them because they have more free time to devote to the culture war, creating culture and art the same way the
But
left
at the
does.
same time, each one of those at the same.
Culture.
Let him
At
finish.
the same time, though, all these people are counted as losses in the cultural war because they're they're womanless, childless.
Yes, that's no good. That's no good.
Okay, can I bring up something I've completely gone into? So, I think you might be hearing about within the United States, this is an idea that we should start to form, locally. That we should start meeting guys locally and forming little groups.
I mean, that's what Grindr's for, but I digress.
No, I mean, what about like the meetup groups and things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, people are doing that already.
And, one of the things
I've reached out to like probably 2 people I know in real life who are basically, one person knows kind of the language I'm talking in, and the others, probably comparable to you, a strong conservative who I picked up on. We were trying to do basically the same thing. I mean, this is kind of what you have to do, find the Nazi next door, start forming your own posses, your own.
Most Nazis are crazy.
Hey, that hurt.
I don't want to.
That really hurt, Ian.
Well, I'm being.
Well, I mean,
sorry, dude. Gotta be honest.
Like like people who actually self-identify as Nazis are not like the most stable people.
Stable.
Usually,
wait a minute. You have a doctrine. You have a doctrine that says that civilization was founded by Aryans from the north, when civilization started in the Middle East and then was refined by Greek and Roman people and Egyptian people. So their basic doctrine was wrong, and everything. It's just like communism.
Oh, they see us as Nazis. Yeah. That's what I.
No. Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
Yeah,
it's just like communism in the sense that its founding mythology is a myth. Communism says that primitive man was collectivist. It's wrong. Nazism says that civilization was founded by blue-eyed people from the north. It wasn't. End of story. It wasn't. So everything that Nazis said in World War II and in the Adolf Hitler years come forth from this basic assumption that civilization was started by Aryans. It wasn't. It factually wasn't.
Unless if you believe in Hyperborea.
Okay, well, okay. You guys are, Greg, you're digressing from the point I'm trying to make, okay? Like, people, there are people who are called Nazis who would not call themselves Nazis. It's one thing if, the left calls you a Nazi.
What?
It's another thing if you self-identify as a Nazi. Even Matthew Heimbach, who describes himself as a National Socialist, doesn't self-identify as a Nazi. He sees it as an insult term.
Yeah, and I know it was originally came from the Bavarian word Soci, which meant social democrat, and then they just joked with it saying, well, they're just National Social Democrats.
So it was already a meme.
It was a meme. And then the left just took it and just said, Nazi, 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 these evil, the evil white Christian Nazis.
They weren't Christian. They killed tons of Christians, the Nazis.
Yeah, Hitler admired Islam. What is it with this meaning, this fascination
He killed
about
Engelbert Dollfuss.
Yeah, and also Hitler promoted polygyny. Like, if you know about the polygamy, if you know about the Laban foreign program, yeah.
Yeah, there was the and I'm kind of mixed.
You're slaughtering me on an altar of
we don't know
lies.
what happened in World War II. That's what I see.
Dude, my people were allied with the Nazis. My people were allied. We fought with them. I know people who are still alive today who were alive back then. The things that are said about the Nazis, I don't know about the Holocaust because we didn't have gas chambers in Romania. But the things that they said and espoused, their propaganda, we had leaflets here in Romania. So don't tell me that we're lying. We're not. Why are you so attached to this Nazi ideology? I don't understand. I thought you were a Christian. Hitler liked Islam because it was more warlike.
Yeah.
Hitler liked Nietzsche. He pandered to Christianity because he ruled over a Christian country.
Gregory's got the right idea.
I did not say that that I identify as a Nazi outside of the meme.
Oh, sorry. Others call you a Nazi. Then I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth.
Brings up, but then it brings up.
I mean, I do, but nobody cares about my feelings.
Well,
I'll go cry
But
about
that's a bag of just.
Can I say fag now?
No, I don't know what type of stuff could get this channel banned, so I don't want to.
Well, I'll tell you.
Also, that's just a waste of time. I just feel like it's a waste of time.
Let me tell you this. Aside from Islam, any empire that wishes to conquer has to compromise its doctrine in order to rule over the conquered people. And that's why any conqueror is not, you should not follow his ideology. Because Napoleon changes beliefs to suit his conquering. Hitler changes beliefs. Even Stalin. Stalin is denounced even to this day by purist communists because he didn't stick to the doctrine. And you can't rule over multiple countries by sticking and staying true to your principles. It will get corrupted. As a reactionary, I believe in each people's right to self-determination, and that allows them to organically grow their culture. But if you choose an imperialist ideology, it must forever be flexible. And I'm not interested in being flexible.
And
I'm
that's
not
why I'm for breaking up the United States into smaller countries.
That brings up.
I agree with that. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, that leads into a question I want to ask. Sorry if I'm interrupting a lot.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, well, a lot of people say that, like, if the Nazis won World War II, they would have exterminated all the Slavs. But Gregory talked about how, like, a conqueror eventually has to become flexible, where, like, they can't be as puritanical if they're ruling over more people. So maybe that wouldn't have been true if the Nazis won World War II.
The Lebensraum idea came from World War I when the Germans were planning on, creating like, little duchies out into the Russian Empire. Like Ukraine was like once a state. It had just been enforced, just like the British did in Africa or whatever.
And let's be pragmatic here, because we're flesh and blood creatures living in the real world. This brand is so tainted.
Yeah,
I know the counter argument because I'm in the space.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, the brand is tainted. That's why when people ask me what my beliefs are, I tell them I'm a monarchist.
It can be untainted.
Exactly.
You have to understand that you're never going to make Adolf Hitler into a hero.
He was
And
a
Yeah,
Yeah, you
war.
lost
German
the
in the
war.
first
And
place.
then
It's
that,
not
within
even
the
your own
loss,
people,
you're
right?
you have to choose something new. You have to kind of take yourself out of
And
the ashes.
for example, my national hero, Codrianu, he didn't dress up as a medieval knight or
Right.
as Stefan the Great or our national heroes. He was his own guy. He had his own symbol, his own colors, his own uniforms. The legionaries harkened back to other times, but they never identified with them. They never LARPed as medieval Romanians.
Right. It's not about LARPing. Yeah.
Well,
It's-
yeah, because you have this idea that you know the past is not the present. It's something within the past. It's this sort of chain that comes up to the present, and that you are acting in the present. This new page in history.
And,
Yeah.
and humanity, the concept of having a precedent is very powerful, even in the legal system. If a law has a precedent, it's very easy to argue it. And this is what the past offers us. Others went through what we are going through now. And even though times have changed, I like chainmail and plate armor. I can't wear it. I can't LARP as a knight. I wear silk and clothes, and and this is my armor. This is my uniform.
I did go into like basically traditionalism to the point I was an anarcho-primitivist. And the problem is we have this modern technology. We have to deal with it. And I would like to see
a
world
hunter-gatherer?
where we, I'd like to see a world in which we disarm and go back to some of the old methods that were good.
And the Pepe
disarm and
memes
go back to
are a first
clubbing
step.
people. I don't know. That sounds pretty awful to me. I'd rather get shot any day.
I at the same time, I just find that like a lot of modern technology is not up. It's not within our nature. That we've been using other technologies for thousands of years, and we've become very degenerate. We've become very bourgeois through this technology.
I don't think it's the technology doing it, though.
Yeah. I think
it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I will say it goes hand in hand. That's actually why not Mormons, what do you call Amish people? They're not, what do you call it? They're not Luddites. Yeah, they're not Luddites because they believe that the technology is inherently evil, or that it's the work of the devil or whatever. This this trope is meant to depict them as thinking of technology. It's simply put that it reduces strain on the person. It enables laziness essentially. It doesn't cause the laziness.
It lacks your
it just enables
this is the problem with the idea of technological progress, is that you're just stripping something of its value, of its correct nature, and then transforming it into something it's not. And that's why you have, transhumanism, transgenderism, and all the degeneracy, because it'd be held up by this technology, this prosperity and wealth.
If you wanna a slight comfort from this, it seems that humanity has reached the peak of its intellectual capital. Because less and less Nobel Prizes are getting won for breakthrough discoveries. It seems that in physics we've hit a wall.
Exactly. The technological progress you're talking about. I mean, what is it? It's like an iPhone or a computer. When you look at actual, real technological progress, like antibiotics, being able to refrigerate food. I mean, cars. All this stuff is over. We haven't done anything significant in a long time.
Yeah,
and
we've
Facebook
reached.
Doesn't count. Google doesn't
material, count. It's the wealth of this world. I forgot what exactly Christ was saying. Like treasures of this world. They're the just get what you have to do to get by, and if something good comes along, that's that. It seems like I've gone through far too much thought than.
Japanese minimalism is the way to go, my dude.
Yeah.
The Spartans actually were afraid.
Went through
Go on.
Of internal political thinking. I think that's just what I was trying to say. And went through a period where I couldn't find the problem with Puritanism, and then switched back towards switched to libertarianism for a while. That was just something I went through. And yeah, you have to balance between having too much that causes degeneration, but you don't want to strip away everything that gives good and meaning to life.
Well, I harken back to our previous point. You need a moral code. It's not the things.
Not strict, but within a natural context.
Yeah, you can't clone people. You can't modify the basic human mind.
And right, I mean
I find this being an issue.
You talk of there needing to be a moral code or these basic laws or whatever, and they're already written. I mean, we're on a Christian hangout right now. I mean, it's like you're saying these things as if there's some kind of mystery yet to be unraveled. I mean, it's all written down already.
I thought Gregory was.
I mean, for us Americans, we still have to create our own sort of folk laws, or sort of rewrite them, or sort of find them within our localities.
Well, you had it right for a while. Until you became ultra secular.
Well, I think
Americans.
Yeah. I think we should have a nominally libertarian society that's socially conservative and Christian. I think that's
paleo-conservatism.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, for example, like, I'm against drugs, I'm against marijuana, but if people want to do it, they should have the option to do it, because, like, we have...
Okay, my problem is, with issues like drugs...
Well, okay.
It's like as we were talking about earlier, and we had that big discussion about that issue, it corrupts society.
It does. And for example, look at weed culture. Weed culture on its own. I mean, the fact is that the number of people that smoke weed or smoke cigarettes, the number of people that smoke cigarettes is some 60 or 70 million people of the United States. The number of people that smoke weed are some 50 to 60 million people, or yes, 50 to 60 million people. So that's comparable. They're comparable to each other now, and that's because the drug culture it spread. It didn't just stick with one person that was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it on my own. I don't need anyone around me. I'm just gonna do this for me.
This is what happened. This is what happened.
There's always that what do you call it? You got to pass the bong. You got to pass the joint and stuff like that. It's just this whole culture that is it's a disease. It is a disease, or it's a living entity. It's a virus. It's meant to spread.
It's creating slavery.
I totally agree with all of that. But what I mean is that I'm thinking.
Oh, just make it to where corporations can monetize it and get rich off of it, and then it's okay. But it's not.
Well, this is a basic leftist assumption that we have to shake off. Humans are very interconnected and interdependent. The idea of an individual is almost idiotic when it comes to behavior. What parent, if you when you were a kid started hanging out with bikers, and you would say to your mother, "Oh, Mom, don't worry, I'm not a biker myself.
I'm an individual." Yeah.
Everyone that I talk to is in a biker gang and sells drugs, but I don't. So can I hang out with them? Every single parent on the entire North American continent would say, "No."
Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that?
Well,
I'm pretty sure a lot of them would be like, "Yo, you know what? Do what you want, kiddo."
You get my point.
If you trust the individualist argument with certain parents, I can see that. Like, just a lot of cuck parents.
Well, yeah, but you get my point. Any person with common sense, when it comes to their kids, they suddenly are not individualists. Oh, you better
Right.
stop hanging out with those people. They're a bad influence. Because every person knows, and every human that has ever lived has known, that we influence each other. Simply
Right, and
being around
that's
people
like how
works.
and that's like how, you know, a lot of people, a lot of these leftists are saying things like XYZ is a social construct, you know, gender is a social construct, or whatever. The thing is that social constructs for humans, because we are a pack animal, because we are a pack or a herd or just a social animal, these social constructs that they're saying, oh, it's just social construct. Well, because of what we are as beings, these social constructs are a part of our biology. Therefore, these social constructs are not social constructs, but rather biological constructs.
Well, depends on how the
These are
term
things
is.
dictated by nature itself.
No, because we do have free will. I mean, there is
I mean, do we? I mean, but here's the thing. At least in what my doctrine says, we're slaves. One way or another, we are absolutely slaves, and we are either slaves. We are slaves of God, which is a good thing, or we are slaves of the devil, which is
no.
obviously a bad thing.
We have divine essence, and that's why we fell, because we bit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the element of choice and death was introduced to the world. All humans must die, and all humans must make a choice. And if God is fair, and you can't tell me that the embodiment of fairness will punish you for something you have no control over. That's the whole point. You have to choose him willingly. That's why evil exists. That's why murderers get to murder, because they have free will. If they didn't have free will, or
Well,
if
I mean,
they
no.
were
I mean,
robots,
simply, like I said, simply put, they're slaves to the devil.
well, this is no. You misunderstand slaves. They're servants of the devil. They're willing participants, because it wouldn't be just. This is the whole argument of Christians. There is an objective morality, but if everything is nature, then we can't talk about morality. A waterfall isn't evil if it drowns you. It's water. It can make a choice. It can either water your crops or kill you. It's an elemental force. Humans are not elemental forces. They have free will. And only things with consciousness can make decisions. That's my alarm, sorry. You can't blame something that doesn't have free will. If you simply can't. That's why we're lenient with retarded people. Because they have their mental capacity dimmed. That's the basis of morality. Anyone else?
I mean, I agree with that from what I've read. I mean, maybe Britain was, you know, making a more, I don't know, extreme statement about like the slaves that, you know, you're slaves of God or slaves of the devil. Like, well, I see what he's talking about.
What it is, I mean,
free will is a central tenet of Christianity. That's where we get the degenerate incarnation of it that we get today with the individual freedom is our God. You know, well, began.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that you know, I wasn't making comments on I mean, okay, what I was talking about was, I mean, if you're familiar with any of Martin Luther's works, one of the things he talked about was the bondage of the will. I mean, it basically it summarized it's about us not having necessarily free will in the way that, you know, that we think of it as in terms of like a libertarian or anarchist or state, or, you know, in terms of spirituality. I mean, but I mean it's not like we have, oh, this free reign to do, you know, whatever. I mean,
this is an Anglo problem. You get too autistic about things. I am responsible for.
I agree with Gregory. That's part of why I go with the Orthodox Church. Like you, I mean,
you're responsible for your decisions. Why all the philosophizing? You don't have to split the hair in four. It's another Romanian expression.
And also, it can be very harmful. I mean,
Leave
I'm not
well
saying
enough
Britain.
alone.
I understand. I'm not saying Britain at all. But I'm just saying, in general, I understand when Gregory says that, what he just said. Me, as an Irish Catholic who now goes to Orthodox, I get what he's talking about. I think that the Northern Europeans can be too, you know, they can be too, not, I don't want to use, autistic, whatever, but too legalistic, too, you know, pedantic about the minutiae of doctrine. But no, I'm not familiar with Martin Luther's writings at all. So maybe we're getting into some sectarian,
Yeah,
you know,
stuff lost in translation, I bet.
Itself, I think we all.
Well, the word slave, I think, is new. The idea of servant.
Slave
Servant
implies
is
no
not.
choice.
yeah.
And
Well, I
on
mean,
top of that,
Hold on a second. Hold on. Too many people.
It sounded like
Lee,
he was saying something else about. Then he started to say about Martin Luther and free will, and with the meaning that, you know, you're not free to do anything you want. So it sounded like it was actually something else that it sounded like from. So it's difficult. Like if we're not all familiar with the same exact writings that we're talking about, I mean, it's kind of.
It's probably a lot more useful to say what Scripture says, and I think Luther refers to those things, right? Because he wouldn't be drawing doctrine from nowhere, and I think he insisted on drawing doctrine from Scripture. So if we can look at Scripture itself, I think it also will enhance our understanding of stuff that we already agree on and stuff that we already affirm is authoritative for ourselves, as well as people in other Christian traditions.
Right.
I concur. I mean, we all know something about that.
But yeah, I had a hard time hearing what he was saying. If anyone wants to translate.
Use the
I think
Bible.
there is a
It's
confusion
what I
here
said.
between.
Oh, okay.
my Bible.
I think
Enough
what we're
Lucas
getting
probably
into.
I think that if you take free will out of Christianity, the religion loses its meaning. I think that that's the point. You get to choose God. And fence sitting, this is another point. Being neutral in this conflict is serving the devil, because you actively have to seek out God.
Exactly, and that's
save.
what that's you know, and that's part of what I'm saying.
my mother makes the same point.
There's two paths. There's two paths, and then the void. I mean, one leads to the void anyway. But I mean, here's the thing: you step off the path. I mean, or better yet, I'm trying to think of a good allegory to describe it, because here's the thing: there's no in betweens. That you're either doing good. You know, you're either actively doing good, or you're passively or actively doing evil. There's no in between.
Agreed, fully agreed, because
and therefore either you are, you know, you are being in service to God, or you're being in service to the devil.
Yeah, but you get to choose which one you serve. That was my point.
Right.
You're not programmed before you're born to follow a certain path.
Well,
because
in a sense, but in another.
Yeah, I mean, you were created for God.
Right.
But, and this is where I was trying to interject this with the idea of, you know, this, I don't know what you were saying specifically, but you're talking about the servants.
Okay, well, so the servant and the slave
Man
thing that
freely chooses to do evil, but but once he's in evil, it's like a tendency that you're not really free.
Okay.
Free, it's good. Being continuously good makes you free. The truth shall set you free. I think that's a quote.
Yes, right. Because anyone who's been hungry can tell you that all they can think about is food. If you're a slave and if your desires are constantly gnawing at your consciousness, you have
that's part of what I was talking about, the ponderings of the will. I mean, now, okay, so I've got it here in front of, or I've got the Wikipedia summary here in front of me. I know I'm cheating, but I digress. The thing is that right here it says Luther. Okay, so basically Luther was saying that that sin incapacitates humans from. I'm just going to read it straight up. Sin incapacitates humans from working at their own salvation, and that they are completely incapable of bringing themselves to God. As such, there is no free will for humanity because any they might have is overwhelmed by the influence of sin, which, I mean, makes sense because, I mean, you look at, I use this analogy a lot. You look at Exodus. Moses went up to talk to God for what, 2 weeks, 13 days, some number like that, right? He came back down, and in those 2 weeks, they had already gotten rid of every bit of God in the camp. God was completely absent. I mean, not spiritually, but I mean, God was absent in the people's minds. They had already built themselves a golden calf, a golden idol, to worship instead of God. And the hearts of men are desperately wicked. That's all the time it took for, at least with Moses and the Israelites, that's all the time it took to prove it. They had God right there. Moses was there talking to him, and they still decided to stray. They still decided to just completely separate themselves from him. Obviously, it was kind of corrected when Moses came down and was very irate, I'd say. But
that was literally the exact word I was thinking before you said irate.
Yeah.
We think alike, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. But yeah, okay. So central to this analysis, let's see. Okay, Luther concluded that unredeemed human beings are dominated by obstructions. Satan, as the prince of the mortal world, never lets go of what he considers his own unless he is overpowered by a stronger power, i.e. God. When God redeems this person, he redeems the entire person, including the will, which then is liberated to serve God. No one can achieve salvation or redemption through their own choices. People do not choose between good or evil, because they're completely naturally dominated by evil. And salvation is simply the product of God unilaterally changing a person's heart and turning them to good ends. Were it not so, Luther contended, God would not be omnipotent and omniscient and would lack total sovereignty over creation. And Luther held that arguing otherwise was insulting to the glory of God. As such, Luther concluded that that's spicy. Luther the guy that he was arguing with us about, Luther basically accused him of not actually being a Christian. Wow, that is pretty spicy. But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know, how do I describe it? I think you were right when you said there was something kind of lost in, what do you call it, in sectarian, different sectarian beliefs, I guess y'all said. Because I hear groans of disagreement, like, I don't know, and then
Yeah, that sounded so. I don't know anything about Luther. That's like probably the first thing I've heard by him, and it sounds, far from what I understand about Christianity and free will. But I know a lot of Lutherans, and they're Christian, and
right. And the thing is, I mean, just like with almost any other sect of the faith, I mean, look at the Catholics. You have I don't mean Orthodox and Catholics. I mean, you look at Roman Catholics and then Eastern Roman Catholics. The doctrinal differences between them are very, very profound. In fact, Eastern Roman Orthodox, the priests are able to marry and have children, is like any other Protestant Christian group, whereas the traditional Roman Catholic clergy are not allowed to do so. And that's within the same Catholic, or the quote unquote same Catholic Church. Hell, even Rome recognizes the Eastern Roman Church as part of the Roman Catholic Church. You also have
zero interest in arguing doctrinal stuff, or sectarian stuff or doctrinal stuff. I mean, the reason why we're having a Christian hangout, which would have seemed weird to many people like centuries ago, is because Christianity is under such threat.
Right.
So I don't see the point of, you might be Lutheran, I might be Orthodox, but we have similar interests because we're both discriminating.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cares? I don't.
What we're talking about here, it's called perennialism. That truth can be found throughout multiple faiths. It's not that all
but
faiths
Christian
are valid.
faiths.
We got a Joel Osteen. Watch
Truths
out.
to varying degrees. But then you have the highest truth, which is the true faith.
I suppose that.
Yeah, and the church, and this is
Which I mean, if you
Catholic
think
kind of go hand in hand. Catholic
I mean-
means universal, and that's universal church doctrine. That
this perennial
view
theory that you're
different-
thinking about. Hold on, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but this perennial theory or this perennial thinking that you're thinking of, this is through all faiths, not just Christian faiths. Is that correct in this perennial thinking?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's
Well,
yeah.
So
With like
I got you.
People
So
like Rene Guénon, he like went over.
yeah, and the thing is
Islam.
that the thing is that if we take the Bible at face value, we all originated from one group of a single. Jeez, I can't talk right now. A singular group of people, and we spread. We all at one point we all had the same beliefs. We all talked to the same God. We all, not us personally, but
then
our
as
ancestors.
we grew, we kind of grew out in our own different uniqueness, and this is why
Exactly, and some of them
like,
and a lot of them, yeah, and some of them
because,
some of them went to the point of
like
paganism.
how Christianity was traditionally taught or traditionally done is that they didn't exclude the gods of old. They integrated it in the faith. They, like, for example, there are some saints, I kind of remember hearing this, were actually pagan gods or pagan myths that were integrated into the faith. And
right, there's if I remember right, there's.
I think, am I correct that like the Romanian Orthodox Church is like very tied into Romanian paganism?
More like Romanian nationalists are very tied to old forms, but they admire. We were very. The religion was centered around immortality, just like the Egyptians. So the Romanian Orthodox Church likes to boast that our people, since even our dawn age, has always believed in the immortality of the soul. It used to be an honor to be allowed to throw yourself on spears and meet the chief god. It was called Zamolse. And that tradition is revered. It shows that we were spiritual even when we were not Christian.
Yeah, and I remember going through like reading Greek and Norse mythology, and you can find a lot of Christian material in those myths. And
well, the problem with perennialism is that you have to accept that Jesus Christ is the Logos. And
yeah, he is the Almighty God. He is the literal God, and then the myths are like.
But he is the truth. Myths reflect reality, but
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
and sometimes reality, there are these flashpoints in history where myth and reality blend. For example, there's that occasion where 500 or 300 Englishmen on horses charge a Russian infantry artillery position and they win. That's one of those moments. Or there are moments of extreme heroism or sacrifice where it's almost out of a fairy tale book. That's where moments where fairy tales and myths and reality blend. And all cultures have these, but these emanate from the one true God. And they just see it differently because God isn't in the habit of patting you on the shoulder and correcting you. That's why we have so many Christian denominations, and that's why we have other
that's the
religions.
idea of the Catholic Church. Why I sometimes kind of, well, I noticed this with like Orthodox, which is weird, is that people will just turn over to the faith and then not realize that. I mean, the Catholic Church has, as you were saying, the Eastern Rite. We just see that as that those are their culture. And I just find it so weird that you have Catholics just switching over to the Orthodox faith when you have your church here. your church is here. This is our culture. This is. I just find it weird.
Yeah, that's why I switched.
Church is completely ruined. Like, I'm Catholic. I've gone to Orthodox.
Yeah, and
our church.
Same. I mean, the church that the parish that my parents kept dragging me to. Yes, but then there was a parish that I actually just in the borders belonged to. That's like very conservative. Like the guy did like a he basically said that there's there are these people pouring poison in the water that homosexuality is fine. It's not. Like that was something he just said at the sermon or something like that. It was like
but the Catholic Church is so centralized that when there's a top-down, like Vatican II in 1962, they reformed it. That did a lot to strip of a lot. So
yeah, and what's funny is
the boomers caused so much damage in the real world and like society, and it did so in the church. It was just simply a reflection of what happened. You have
Bergoglio's a boomer, isn't he?
The boomers weren't responsible for Vatican II, though.
Yeah, that's pre-boomer. That was
generation that's coming up. And
they weren't.
As you were saying earlier, there are people who are more, that's within the church. I mean, as I said, there was a guy I met in my religious youth group who basically believes the same stuff we do. He just was turned off by the dank memes. He was like, I want to preserve white culture, but he didn't like literally say it in those words.
Yeah, but whites before Christianity were pale Muslims. Look at the Vikings.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, at the same time, the label white does not really reflect anything. It's that, I mean, European would be good, but like, I don't know what you're saying. I mean, specifying.
Well, I think white is a defensive position.
White Muslims.
I think white is a defensive position these days. I don't think it's white people calling themselves.
As I said with Nazi, we're all Nazis. In the eyes of the left, we're just Nazis who are evil white males who are huddling in their corners, creating the new dark, the Fourth Reich and their dark order of the Black Sun or something crazy like that.
But they're not
okay. But even if they believe that about us, that doesn't mean we should call ourselves Nazis and like start wearing swastikas.
Well, we should at the same time we should joke about what they're calling.
Conversation's actually getting a bit, huh?
We should joke about what they're calling us so that we're just saying it to them. It does not matter to us.
You mean like agree and amplify?
What?
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like if a libertarian calls me a communist, I'll go full Nazbol. Yes, nationalize everything, comrade. You have no rights.
Well, this thing with Nazbol, Nazi, and all this stuff, like dank memes, and it's like it sort of becomes like irony becomes a new sincerity, where like we become like hipsters, always ironic all the time, and.
Like I'm a Kyrgyzstani and like
the Daily Show actually started as a parody podcast and it got serious really fast. Seriously, they started as a parody. They weren't. They admitted that they weren't anti-Semitic at first. They just didn't like political correctness and they called it the Show. The Merchant Minute started to mock people obsessed by Jews. Imagine that. Imagine my shock.
Yeah. Well, hold on. About the Daily Show, I mean, they did I think they were a serious podcast. Like they were more modern when they started out on some issues.
No.
Who did what now?
Initially, I remember listening to an interview by Maracu. Like, basically, TRS was just a bunch of edgy libertarians, hence edgytarian. Might be edgy what I'm about to say. Close the borders and deport all the gays.
What?
It's probably one of Maracu's songs. They did jingles or whatever, and that's the thing.
I know that the Merchant Minute initially was a little bit more of a parody at first. Like it was just sort of like making up.
Yeah, but then
It's just like talking about
like
current
many
events and saying,
things,
clearly
they
this is
just
the Jews that were
realized
behind this.
how
And
heavy this stuff is, and just kind of
Beware neo-sincerity.
Eskimos.
but I think that they were a serious podcast. They just were less.
No, I'm not meaning that they're not serious. They weren't into the ideas that they are now. They started parodying what the left think they are, and they became that slowly.
Well, no, I think they
remember
did hold the views
Arjun
they
put out a
discussed. Like
video
it's just
recently where he was criticizing National Bolshevism.
Arjun.
Like a lot of people like me who put around the National Bolshevik meme, and truth to that, you know, the third is you don't care about economics, and he was just rambling.
Communism isn't just economics.
Some spur group in TRS, like literally, he was worrying that some spur group was going to be literally this.
Well, wait. People's objection to communism isn't that it's bad economics. People's objection is that it's bad reading of human nature. I just said this. Marx assumed that early humans were communitarian and communist. And it's not true. They were hierarchical. They had chieftains. It was a feudal system ever since we started.
The joke of National Bolshevism. Yeah. It's like a zombie because like they want to create, because the joke came out that because after the revolution, the state socialism became a new hierarchy, and like the Soviet Union operated under red fascism.
I think it's just an attempt to trigger even alt-right people.
It's to trigger the libertarians, and so I ride with them.
I don't like the name, and I don't like Mike Enoch, and I'm not crazy about the Daily Shoah. And what's the
I've got the same view on TRS.
I used to listen to the Shoah, but
same here. I used to think it was funny.
And I don't like Mike Enoch, and I don't think he comes across as that.
You don't have to like him. You just have to be with him.
I genuinely.
Hold on. Let her finish.
No, I don't have to be with him. No, I don't have to be with him. Thank you very much.
Loretta, what were you saying about Mike Enoch?
I just don't like him. He doesn't come across to me as likable, or he'll bitch about Jews. It's a turnoff to me. Or the stuff.
Here's the kicker though. He's married to a Jew, as far as I remember.
I don't care. I just don't care. I just don't find him a likable personality. I don't like his material.
Well,
I think the fact that he's married to a Jew actually
and could I add on top of
the fact that he's a hypocrite.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Sam?
Yeah, I think what he meant, what Brandon meant was that, like, him being married to a Jew, he wasn't trying to say that he's not anti-Semitic. I think he's trying to say that he's a hypocrite because he's married to a Jew. And it's not
Well, no, if you're a smoker and you tell other people not to smoke, that doesn't make you a hypocrite. That means be better than me.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's not just that. It's the fact that he's married to a Jew. He promotes the gay agenda. He, what do you call it? He and his group, TRS, they constantly and openly bash Christianity. Hell, the TRS podcast, I think there's like one section of it that's like, that's even run by Christians or so-called Christians.
Yeah, but they allow Christians. They don't have to be Christian.
Right, but then you have Meraki openly blaspheming and saying that the volcano god cucked Joseph or whatever.
Yeah. I know. It's not good when others insult Christianity, but here's the thing. We don't have to associate with those people.
Exactly. And
that's to associate with them,
that's why I'm like, I don't associate with anyone that is what do you call it? That's promotional of homosexuality or anyone that's.
Why did they ever promote homosexuality? I've never heard.
No, well, I know. No, I'm just saying. I'm just using these as examples. I don't associate with groups of people that associate with things that I consider, to be antithetical to my beliefs or antithetical to myself. Because the thing is okay, say here's a great example that I know personally in my life and in my best friend's life. His father was a Satanist, and the thing is and this can be kind of pretty much almost universal, not just with Satanists, but a lot of non-Christian people, a lot of secular people, is the fact that very rarely is somebody who's not a Christian, very rarely is somebody going to give you just a gift out of the kindness of their hearts. Especially if they're not, involved with you in any way. But the thing is that with people like this, with bad people, like my friend's father, he gave these things to Drew to buy his loyalty, and thankfully it didn't work. But the thing is that it puts that worm in your mind. It puts that worm in your brain. That every time you see it, especially if it's something really good, really useful, something that you need, every time you look at it, you think, oh wow, that Mike, he's a Satanist, but oh, he's a swell guy. Taking gifts. Beware. Beware of gifts. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Essentially.
Well, nobody's saying marry him or move in with him. I'm just saying leave him alone. As long as he's doing good work, I have no problem with TRS. I'm not tied to TRS. I don't want to be tied. We have separate paths. I respect Mike Enoch as an intellectual because he makes very good points. He's got a very quick wit. And that's about all I care about. He doesn't have to be my friend.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that this is how the alt-right is. We're decentralized. We're networked. So we're going to have different people.
Or libertarians.
We don't have to associate with those we disagree with.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Like in a very schismatic way,
Well, I'm just saying, like, my point is I don't listen to him because I just don't find I don't find him attractive. And I mean, you're saying, okay, well,
now we know what it's really about now.
I mean, I don't know too much about Mike Enoch, but aside from what you said about TRS, yeah.
But I mean, my point is the people that I listen to and I follow and I care what they say, I do like I personally like them. And a lot of times, and I disagree with many of them on many issues, but a lot of times, I like them because I think they're straight talkers. I think they're straight shooters. I think they have integrity. Integrity is a very big deal for me. So, and I also, if somebody's like fun or has a good sense of humor, that's good too. But, I mean, it's kind of like there's a struggle going on and you want to be with people you like. And I'm not crazy about him.
Right.
You don't have to be. What was I saying? You're a Christian. You're with us, like it or not.
Who are guys, Loretta? Who are guys that you follow and you respect?
Well, one is
Gregory Carlin, obvious.
What? Okay. So one, I mean, I follow and respect a lot of name people. Like, I mean, this is gonna maybe sound not interesting to you, but Ann Coulter. I really like Ann Coulter. I always read her. Ann Corcoran, the refugee watcher. I mean, she reports on refugee numbers. I always read her. She's got integrity. Mark Krikorian, he's Armenian, he's Christian. He reports on the refugee numbers as well and immigration. I've been watching him for a while. He's a very straight shooter. There's an alt-South guy, Hunter Wallace. Very well-read, and I don't always agree with him, but I always read what he says. And I mean, today he had some wonderful points to make about the Enlightenment. Just questioning the Enlightenment because it's something that everybody takes for granted. So that's another one. I mean, it's kind of Byron York, who works for the Washington Examiner. I read him. And then I have my anonymous friends, Reactionary Ian. I look to see what you're saying. Who else? But I mean, there's a lot of anonymous people. Even Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden is just funny. He's always there, in his various incarnations. And he's just, I find him comical, and he has a point
Are you
sometimes.
talking about Adolf Joe Biden, the Twitter account?
Yeah, he's
Okay, I was fixing to say, wait a minute.
My heart caught in my neck when she
All right,
said
guys.
that.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
no, no.
I have
Oh,
to
sorry.
leave right
I
now.
thought I took it for granted that you would know I didn't mean Joe Biden. That's funny.
Yeah,
No,
sorry,
Rick,
guys.
I used to read, not so much anymore.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry, guys.
I
have to leave
can
right
poke
now.
it too, but the problem is she's arguing from a liberal's perspective.
Are you coming? You're leaving now, Sam?
Yeah, I'm leaving. It was a great talk. I'll try to join next time. I had a great time.
All right.
Bye, Sam.
Thanks.
Right.
I actually would like to wrap up soon, guys. So.
Oh yeah, just to let you guys know, are you guys familiar with the podcast The Stark Truth with Robert Stark?
No.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
I recently came on as a co-host. I replaced Bill Eater as the co-host.
Oh, cool.
So what's
check
his
that
name?
out. The Stark, Robert Stark.
Yeah.
No, what's the name of the podcast?
The Stark Truth.
The Stark Truth.
The Stark Truth. Okay. I'll be sure to listen.
Cool.
Yeah, he comes from more of a alt-left perspective. Like he's economically socialist, but agrees with like general alt-right ideas like HDD and stuff like that.
Well, there are many people.
I'm interested in that specific alt-left. Kind of how I originally heard it. I've heard it being also basically used in the context of like Antifa or whatever. So there's like you have to kind of specify, but I'm interested in that also because there are some good points or good people within the left, like the environmentalists and some of those. It's just that they have to realize the government's not on their side.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
because they have good points.
Yeah, the left does have a lot of good points about income inequality and corporate greed. I mean,
when I came into the alt-right, I had to adjust myself, and I mean, now I call myself a third positionist to some extent because I know that you have to, you realize that the economic right and the economic left is, liberalism. They go hand in hand, and you have to form an opposite to that.
Lightning
two things that will slip away. Things will progressionally go to the economic right, to neoliberalism, and then things will progressionally go to individual degeneracy. So you need a collectivist alternative or a third position.
Right.
Okay, well, guys, let's wrap this up now because I think we've been going for a while now. So, ready to go off the air, folks?
All right. Well, see you guys.
See you.
What happened to? I'll see you later, Sam. Where did Loretta go? Did she get?
I think she left.
Okay, well, she's not coming back. I'm glad she was able to join at least. Why don't I just wrap up here? Because thank you to Lumenet Sol. Thank you to Gregory Carlin. Thank you, Loretta the PROLE. Thank you, LUE-YEE. Thank you, Britton. Thank you, Lightning Patriot. And thank you, Sam. Well, now you're Sam KEVORKIAN, I guess.
Yeah, I want the Armenian name, and I thought it would be pretty funny I thought it would be pretty funny to use like Jack Kevorkian's name.
Yeah.
To add a little bit of dark humor.
Yeah.
To create like a little bit of a dark persona.
Oh, Loretta's back. Hey.
My computer died.
Oh, really?
My power went out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, it was my fault.
Well, we were just wrapping up anyway, so you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk offline if you want. I mean, if you want to stay a little longer, but we're just gonna stop the live portion now.
Okay. Well, good night. I'm gonna go to bed in a minute. But thanks for having me. Thanks for holding it.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It was good to hear a new voice.
Yep.
Are you guys
Good to have
like
new
on
people.
this all the time? Like you guys?
It's I think as far as I remember, it's like a once every other week. I've been missing the last couple ones because I've just been so busy with my new job, but I think
Yeah,
it's like a once every 2 weeks kind of deal.
It's approximately every 2 weeks, but like I don't know. I think it might have been 3 weeks since the last one. I can't remember. Just 'cause I've
Yeah,
been kinda busy with
I think it's been a hot minute.
So I just took this time to do it this time because I wanted to get it in.
Yeah, we usually have different people rotating in. I mean, we have regulars like LUE-YEE and Luke.
You.
I mean, I try to be a regular, but sometimes sometimes I'm too much for him, and he has to take a break from me. So.
Oh yeah, because
anyway, so
I usually have to struggle in.
let's just say thanks everybody for coming and good night, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.